The following program contains adult language and juvenile conversations. Listener discretion is advised.
If his press was to be believed, Dynamite Kid was a bitter, angry bully, but his influence in wrestling and what I love about wrestling is undeniable. His explosive offense made him perhaps the most apt-named wrestler in history. The most emulated wrestler, for sure. Owen Hart, Jushin Liger, Chris Benoit, Davey Boy Smith, Bryan Danielson. Heck, Tiny White's flying headbutt, fast-paced style, my suplexes and chops. The two of us combined to make a half-assed Dynamite Kid Voltron. We may have been emulating Wild Pegasus and Jushin Liger, but the DNA was laid by Dynamite. His matches with Tiger Mask, Bret Hart, or Cobra are modern as anything on any indie or Japanese stadium show today, despite the fact they're over 35 years old. Dynamite, I hope you find some peace and sleep that you weren't able to find in life. Thank you very much for the matches, sir. And on a good note, it's one of my kids' birthday. Happy birthday, Jesse G. That was some good sperm. Welcome to Trick or Treat Radio.
Welcome all you little zombies. You're listening to Trick or Treat Radio, starring the Deadites.
Welcome to episode 332 of Trick or Treat Radio. Trick or Treat Radio is a phantasmagorical spin kick straight through the heart of pop culture, navigated by the Deadites. The Deadites are the world's greatest electroshock band. We destroy monsters, we drink booze, we win championship belts, and we pay tribute to our fallen heroes. That was nice, Mars.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough that a lot of the guys who emulated Dynamite, not only in ring, seemed to take some of his worst habits, and
you forgot John Walter too.
Yeah, no. you know what's funny about John Walters is I listened to two Ring of Honor podcasts that are kind of going through at the same time. One is done by Shane Hagedorn, actually, and the one I like the most is not down with John Walters. Like, I get so offended. Like, they just don't get it. Like, I don't know, but I, maybe it's because he wrestled in the Mars Dome one time. Like, but it really hurts my feelings when they bring him down. They also, and I agree with this, don't really like Just Incredible. So those two things,
Fair.
but it's
But you know who we do like?
Monster Zero.
Yeah, he's all right.
The Portuguese Man of War.
Monster
Aldo
Zero.
Montoya.
Aldo Monster Zero.
Can I try again?
Yes, you can try again.
Aries.
Yeah, he's pretty good too.
All right, I got one more try, right?
Yeah.
There are two more tries.
All
All
right.
right, ready?
Yeah.
You. We like you.
Well, all right. I appreciate that.
Speak for
Okay.
yourself.
Yeah, right. All right, one more try. You ready?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jakey.
We all love Jakey.
Well, I think four of us like Jakey. Everyone on this side.
There's
of the
someone
table
else in
likes
this
Jakey.
room.
Huh? Who?
Jesus.
And there's also someone joining us on the line, and that is our good buddy. We're actually trying to figure this out, and I think he might be the co-host that we've had guest on the show the most over the past 332 episodes, and that would be our good friend, amazing film critic from the Talk Without Rhythm podcast, El Goro.
How many times have I told you not to call me a film critic? If anything, I'm like the Savio Vega of film commentary.
Yes. Los Boricuas.
The
Los
Quang.
Boricuas, yeah.
Savio Vega was dope. TNT. That guy could go.
He was.
Till Edge
Hey,
killed
Oh,
him.
that's right. He was.
No,
Yeah,
that was
yeah, I
not
forgot about
Savio Vega, you racist. Who
He
was
was
it? That was
appreciated
Jose
by- he was
Estrada
apprecited by
Jr.
the boys. He was appreciated by the boys, but he couldn't get over with the crowd. That's me.
What was he in? What was, I'm trying to remember. What was it? WWC he was in?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, he was over in Puerto Rico as like a fucking
Oh, yeah.
the Butcher knockoff.
Yeah, Savio Vega was good. He had that great spinning heel kick, right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
he had a great run when he first started.
Yeah, and he's a good dancer.
Oh, yeah. So,
Can you do
yes.
that dance, El Goro?
Of course he can.
I probably no, not at all.
I like them better as Quang.
Oh, yeah, Quang. I almost forgot about
What
that.
about oh no, that was the.
I'd be more Nation of Domination, Savio Vega, just kind of standing there with the hat.
We're going deep. Quang.
Just to fill up the space.
Aldo Montoya. We're going deep on these wrestling
True.
gimmicks.
Well, MZ went with Aldo Montoya, so it's like, fuck, who do I know from that? Savio Vega. Let's do this.
What about LT Hopper?
LT Hopper.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was Tia Hopper, I thought.
Huh?
Oh, it was Tia
No,
Hopper.
LT Hopper.
Oh.
Yeah. Dirty white boy.
Tony Anthony.
Who I was thinking of someone else. Who
Duke
was
the Dumpster Drosy. And,
Duke the Dumpster Drosy? Yes.
Alex the Pug Porto.
Alex Porto was awesome. It's just not where he belonged.
Oh wait, the person I was thinking of, because we were talking about people who had like several gimmicks, was the Sultan.
You're right.
Remember the Sultan?
Yeah,
who-
that was Rikishi.
Rikishi. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking
yeah.
of gimmicks in that Ring of Honor show that I was speaking of, it's called ROH. It's through the years with the ROH spelled, and an acquaintance will say of Jesse and I, Wolfie and I, everybody.
332 episodes has
Yeah.
happened twice in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I don't think it's happened ever before that. What the fuck?
The power is starting to wear off. I
Yeah.
think.
In gimmicks, Leonard F. Shakarison is the co-host of this week's episode,
Oh, nice.
this month's episode. And it was really nice to hear him.
Yeah.
And it's also double cool because it's a show that a Philadelphia, New Jersey Rexplex show that me and Tiny were at. So,
Oh.
and it's also the famous one where Teddy Hart almost got beat up by the whole locker room. So
I'm surprised Coop didn't show up when you mentioned Teddy Hart's name.
I think that Coop was there too. I'm almost positive Coop was there. Me, Tiny, and Mossberg and Silica, of all people, piled into a fucking van after a Deadite show and went to Philadelphia to New Jersey to watch. And I think you were at. Did you go to Chiller Theater? Like I think we might have bumped into you arbitrarily at Chiller Theater, but I could be
Oh
wrong.
no! If we bumped into you, if I bumped into you at Chilla Theater, I would have remembered it.
Dude, I've introduced you to 12 Gauge Calhoun 11 or 12 times over the
Yeah,
past
but I
couple
know
years.
you.
Yeah.
Well, there, he does have a point.
Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, no, that's a. I think everyone at this table would enjoy that show because it's a wrestling show, not different from what the three of the people here do, but they also kind of get like really critically political about some of the gender politics and stuff that was going on in wrestling at that time and stuff. It's very good. It's not. I mean, you could tell they weren't big Attitude Era fans, but
Yeah.
and
Like
it's,
you.
well, it's interesting how much of that bled into Ring of Honor at that time. You know, so
Mantar.
check it out.
Before we get too deep into this derailment,
Sorry, yeah.
no. I just want to talk about what we're doing because otherwise, probably won't mention it until 45 minutes in, and people
Until the show's over.
We'll be wondering what the fuck. So, it is now December, so that kicks off the 2018 version of December double feature Cram Jam, which is Raven Shadow and Aries' favorite
Yep.
month of the year.
40% of the show hates this month.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I didn't love it this week.
How long did it take you to do that math?
Yeah,
He's good. Oh, he's
man.
good
No,
at math.
He's
Yeah.
a fucking. He can barely get an erection, and he, as we found out, he can't walk downstairs and almost dies.
You
from
think
his
I
own
can't get an
comedy.
erection? Watch this. Watch this.
Yeah.
But at any point, he can tell you exactly what percentage erect he is.
It's true.
Oh, he's staring at Aries. That was weird. I am actually shocked that you did not get punched.
Yeah,
I
know,
am
right?
shocked.
Hey, I'll do anything to get an erection.
The fuck?
Throw him out the window, have a
I'll
giant
do
boner.
anything. Open the window.
Yeah.
Let's get a breeze in
Great
here.
show, guys. I feel really good about this show.
Are you glad you took the morning off
Yeah.
tomorrow from work?
Yeah.
Click. It was so worth it, wasn't it?
I think we're setting the right tone.
It was so worth it.
Well, I guess that sort of does dovetail into one of the films we're going to be discussing. So, every year, there's a lot of movies to watch, and this year we've had a really good year, a good run of really solid movies. It's going to make our top 13 difficult. In the past, it always hasn't been like this.
No.
And we've had some rough rough years where we're just trying to fit something in there to get in the top 13. So this year is different, where we have a lot to choose from. But we started this about 3 years ago, maybe. And what we do is we take all the films we haven't reviewed yet. So we try to keep up with the new ones that come out, and then we keep a list of films that have come out throughout the year that we just never got to, that maybe have been getting some critical acclaim or maybe showing up on some best of lists, and we try to add those in to get them into the 2018 year. So double feature Cram Jam, we do 2 films a week for the entire month, and kicking it off, obviously we have our good buddy El Goro joining us,
Yeah, Bobby.
and we will be reviewing 2 flicks that are on Netflix, Netflix exclusives, and that is Illang, The Wolf Brigade, and also another film called Cam. So we're going to be talking about those tonight. 2 in-depth discussions about films, and then if we have any voicemail, we typically, in previous episodes, we typically have like a topic that we discuss, but we don't do that during Cram Jam because the episodes are under being 4 to 5 hours. So instead, people are still welcome to send in their thoughts about the films, any feedback they have, but there's no specific discussion.
Yeah.
So
And if you don't, it won't hurt our feelings. Wolfie's too nice to say it, but
no, it
everybody
would
on
hurt
this
my
side of the
feelings.
table. Well, everyone on this, you're outvoted.
Friar
So-
Ferguson.
So that's what's up. We're going to do Illang, The Wolf Brigade first, and then we'll tackle Cam a little bit later in the show. So feel free, obviously, stick around for those conversations. If you haven't seen either film yet and you would like to see it before we discuss it, turn it off now, go watch, come back. Or just listen to us fucking babble and tune us out when we talk about the movies. So, all right, so that's what's going on. What were you guys talking about, wrestling gimmicks? I didn't want to get too carried away.
I don't remember. Does anybody? It smells
Friar
like
Ferguson, Max
Yeah.
Moon, Bastion
Max
Booger.
Moon, yeah.
Max Moon, Paul Diamond. It smells like delicious pizza in here. Does anybody?
Well,
still have
originally
pizza left?
Max Moon was
Conan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I know. I used to have pizza bones.
Oh. Well, you're the
Give
only
us
one
your pizza bones.
You're the only
bones,
one who would
bones.
have pizza, so.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Pizza bones,
Who else
bones,
would have
bones,
pizza in here?
boom, boom, boom,
Is it a
boom,
secret?
boom, boom, boom,
Uh,
boom, boom, boom.
Kayfabe on the.
Then nobody else. I'm
Egan.
the only one that would have.
Kafaba on the Egan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's,
No, don't
Bull
do that.
Nakano.
Yeah.
I love Bull Nakano.
Bull Nakano's not.
Yeah, she wasn't like
She's the fu-
gimmicky.
Yeah, she's the fucking
No, that's
All
true.
Japan Women's Champion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You shut your mouth. She'll come
Yeah.
through this
She'll
fucking door and
fucking
kill you.
Yeah, she will literally fucking spin punch you.
From the grave, I don't doubt it.
That's true. She's dead. This sucks.
Oh,
I think Bull Nakano died from being mean.
from being awesome.
Yeah. She had a heart that was 2 sizes too small and it didn't grow like the Grinch. She just got meaner and meaner. She went. Oh man, now I'm hungry.
Jesus Christ! You didn't bring any snacks? You almost always bring snacks.
I brought a
Meatball
small
Man.
snack, but
Aries
Why?
didn't bring you somewhere?
I've been trying to be. He did.
Small stack. You bought a king size candy bar.
No, it's 2 small candy bars. I figured that I could have one tomorrow.
Oh, Mars. So you stole the Blu-ray? Was that what I saw?
Yeah.
You stole it. Did MZ let you have it?
I actually really like. I have a pre-movie poster before this was called Night of the Demons. I actually
Yep.
really love this movie. So
It's
he
a
was
great flick.
he was nice
was
to
it-
me, and he knew
he
I
let you?
enjoyed it. So I mean, if it was like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that
Well, let's fight for
those
it.
dumb Australian movies
fight.
he likes,
I'd
there,
rather you guys fight for it.
that would be a bad fight. Remember last time we had a fake fight? I messed up your teeth. It was bad.
Oh shit, Aries now. All that.
Oh,
blood
that's
talk.
Aries wants to fight
Oh
for
shit,
it.
Monstero's dick is huge.
that's just Aries.
So a buddy of mine, his name's Mark. He's a really fucking awesome dude, big horror fan. He's been upgrading some of his Blu-ray, and he got, I don't know what it was a steelbook of Night of the Demons. I don't know, but there's a new version that came out. So he gave me his old version of Night of the Demons, and so now I like this movie, but I don't love it as much as you guys. So that's why I figured I'd offer
Let's
it up to the room.
let's do closest number or rock,
Well,
paper, scissors.
he said he already gave it to him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I've never
Never
seen
mind
this
then.
before.
Oh,
Yeah.
or he said it.
Yeah. Well, you're not going to
Never
see it
mind
now because you.
What sucks? Give it to someone who's never seen it before.
No.
So-
Why? You're never gonna watch it.
No,
I'm
you-
gonna watch it tomorrow.
You'll
No,
watch
give it
it
to me
maybe
right now.
once, and
Yeah,
I'll
that's
watch
it.
it on Christmas.
I'll tell you what.
No, you won't.
Watch it on your birthday.
I'll tell you what. You come over my house because you only like to watch movies with 2-3 dudes.
2 tree dudes.
2-3 dudes.
Dudes.
Yeah.
So Mars, I don't really have the info in front of me, but do you know more about what our buddy Chris is doing?
The name escapes me, but he if you can look that up while I'm blabbing, but it's a dream project for him. He is involved. I think he might be an executive
His
producer. I don't know
and
his role.
writer,
Yeah,
I think,
yeah. On a documentary about with Dead Mouse Pictures about Night of the Demons, and it's one of those cool ones like Never Sleep Again, or I think Dead Mouse Pictures did the Return of the Living Dead one. But it's I thought Monster Zero's getting the
The
information.
party's just
I thought
begun.
Monster Zero's getting information I needed, but he's fucking looking at Optimus Prime.
Yep.
But
It's called The Party's Just Begun.
yeah, and it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
I've seen some clips. I've seen the trailer, and it looks like it's gonna be one of those cool. I enjoy those talking head horror retrospectives by the cast. So
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's pretty cool, and it's a dream project for him. It would be like if I did
Neon Maniacs.
Well, no, but I would enjoy that. It would be like if I executive produced a documentary about the thing, because we need a couple more of those, right? Or or did a commentary on it, like our good friend El
Like
Goro.
our good friend El Goro, yeah.
The
Aw.
Arrow release. So
Well, it's funny. One of my listeners actually made the comment that we are kind of living in the golden age of the horror documentary. It seems that no matter what film you're into, there are people lining up to explore it and to dig deep into it.
right.
So it's cool that even Night of the Demons is giving that sort of coverage, because I know it has a very dedicated following.
Yeah. What I like about Chris and I don't agree on everything, but we do both love this film. And what I like about, and even if I didn't like it, his passion for it is infectious. Like, and that's what makes me excited about things. Like some people, do things for money, and some people do things for
Sex.
I mean, I've been in a band for 25 years. It's only had marginal results.
And it's funny. I think one of the first things when I met Chris McGibbon, I think one of the first things he asked was had I seen this movie.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely
crazy about this flick, and it's an awesome movie. I love it. I've always loved this flick from its. I mean, at the time when this movie was released, direct to video or whatever, it was.
Yeah,
This had one of the best. It's certainly in my top 10 of the best opening credit sequences. I think the opening
I
credits.
think it's great.
I think it's fantastic.
This is probably the first Halloween in a while. I haven't watched it, but we did the show, so I didn't get to do a lot. But yeah, I'm very proud that he's doing it, and I think I think that we are real lucky right now that we talk about just horror documentaries, but our friends, technology has changed and access to people has certainly changed now, and I know we put it over all the time, and I know we're in it, but even like Survival of the Film Freaks, that would have been a much harder project to make, even when Neck was making Jodorowsky's Dune. So like,
oh yeah, for sure, yeah.
So like the technology and the the ability to do it and the connection, like let's not underscore
exactly,
that it was a friend and a listener who foot some of that bill to make that happen. So it's just a pretty cool that this is the time that we live in. But
so this this film isn't, the documentary isn't a done deal. It's not in the can. I mean, they filmed some interviews for it, but they are seeking some crowdfunding. So it's on Indiegogo. If you guys just want to look up, The Party's Just Begun. It looks like it has 18 days left, and it is only 22% of the way funded. So looks like they need some help. So go ahead and if you're interested in Night of the Demons and want to contribute, I'm sure. I think I heard Chris say that's the only way to get a physical copy of it is through the campaign.
Yeah.
So yeah, give it a look if you're into it. And always love to see cool stuff like this get made. So
yeah,
especially passion projects.
Yeah, and it's check it out. Tell them we sent you. And let's get this thing done here, because not only Chris has been very, very good to my special lady friend. Took her to quite a few doctor's appointments and helped out quite a bit. So even in just helping me pay it forward, it'd be awesome if as a community we could do what we could do to make this happen. So
yeah, so give it a look. Indiegogo.
Michael Ravenshaw stole my fucking movie, and he thinks I'm not gonna notice.
I don't have it.
Something happened to him, man.
Yeah.
Aries has it.
Well, you're not getting it back now.
I'll take it away from Aries, so I'm not gonna embarrass him. I won't do it on air.
If only there was footage we could refer back to.
Yeah.
I know.
Hey, can I just not plug, but just talk about one more thing quick, and then I'll shut up until we talk about the movies.
Well, you have to shut up. But
This Saturday was a really incredible night. It was one of my favorite bands of all time and some of my favorite peoples of all time. 30th anniversary as a band. It was the Curtain Society's 30th anniversary, and it was incredible. It was incredible to see a lot of the people. There were some people there who I haven't seen in like 10 or 15 years, and it was great that people came out for that, the special night. And they may have looked like they were 9 million, but they played like they were 19 again. So it was incredible. They sounded good. They played some songs that I haven't heard in 20 years. So it was awesome. It was a great night. Bull Mansion, great venue, and I really want to thank Curtain Society for for not just the music, but for bringing for basically making a cool local kid Coffee Kingdom style family reunion happen. So it's pretty fucking dope. It was really cool. We were
How many exes did you run into?
it was fucking awful, that part. Literally, my friend Laura was laughing because some guy came up to me and was like, "Hey, aren't you in a band?" I was like, "No." I was like, "Do you have a sister?" And he was like, "No." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'm in the Deadites." But yeah, it was it was really, really cool, and everybody was really happy to be there. And you could tell some people just don't get out, right? Like they babysitters and whatever else. So it was a fucking cool thing. We were one Wolfie and Aries away from a full current Deadites set, which was sad you guys weren't there, but it was also weird to be with all the Deadites in a place where we didn't have to be and we weren't working or killing monsters or something. So it was real nice. It would have been nice, it would have been even better if all of you were there. But it was a real great time. Have I recommended them to you, El Goro? I feel like I have, and maybe was going to get you some and fell through.
Oh yeah, you've definitely recommended them to me in the past.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I checked out their stuff, at least the stuff that was available online.
Yeah. That's the sad part. They kind of stopped really making records like right before like digital was the way to go. So they don't have a Bandcamp and stuff like that. So some of this stuff is harder to track down. Like even it's just on YouTube from miscellaneous compilations and bootlegs and stuff like that. So
yeah, like back in the day, you maybe did a recording and at that time maybe had a pressing of it on CD at the time.
Yeah, for sure.
Then once they're sold out, that's it.
Yeah, me and Aries probably have some of the last pressings of that original CD because we didn't, our shop shut down abruptly right around the time that thing came out. But that's a great record. Life is Long Still. But the Deadites have a great history with Curtain Society. Me and Tiny's first job where we got any money, I think.
They paid you?
The check might still be in the mail. 'Cause it's fucking, a former manager of the Deadites too. I won't say who. Sounds like Larry Pennis. but
I'm sure it's no accident that it sounds like Larry Pennis.
Yeah, nope, not at all. He also looks like George Washington's ghost now. It's funny, but our job, me and Tiny's job was basically to carry 9 million Roger LaValle guitars into like these theaters that Curtain Society was playing at the time in the Middle East downstairs and stuff like that. So, I got to see some cool venues that like at first it was weird because it was like, this isn't Manly. But, then eventually, we just got to see and got to meet all these cool bands. And I think it really ignited our bug to kind of get out of, like, the coffee shops and open mics and stuff we were doing at the time. And, it was awesome. And also, speaking of people who were involved in the Deadites, Jeb Jones was there, Paul Dagnello. And it was real nice to see him. He looks more like Michael Ravenshadow than Michael Ravenshadow now.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Is his hair long, too?
Oh, super long.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looked like fucking totally rocking it rock star though. It looked like a Dave Grohl walking into the room or something like that. I was like, who's that guy? Oh shit, it's Paul. But there was some notable absences outside of the Deadites people that I was really excited to see and knew they bought tickets and stuff like that. But what are you laughing about?
Nothing.
He's probably looking at something on his phone.
He's having a stroke. I'm saying nice things about people, so he thinks it's funny. But it would have been nice. I wish I had thought to try to like rally up the people to come because everybody here would have had a real good time, even Raven Shadow.
Nah, he wouldn't have.
Though they don't have any cheap, shitty beer, so I'm not sure.
I'll take whatever. man.
How was the venue?
I
Was it
loved
was it the same? Like, have you seen shows in that room before?
It was that room, I think.
Okay.
And for some reason,
Because I know there's a lot of rooms. It is a
it
mansion after
seemed
all.
much bigger, like than it was when we were there last. So I'm not sure.
Oh, so it was in the same room?
I think so. Like, I mean, maybe the rooms are laid out the same,
Mm-hmm.
but it looked very similar.
Now, have you ever been to the Bull Mansion before we went to go see, to the Skipshay Film Festival?
I think that
Shawnee
so.
Film Festival?
So because I need a mirror and I change in the same room as the ladies at Deadite shows, I sometimes end up with stuff that Donna Matrix needs for other shows and doesn't realize she doesn't have them until she unpacks. So I think I've gone to bring, like, I had somebody's fancy bra or somebody's like leather gauntlets or something like that. But I had never been before.
Here's your assless chaps.
I wish. I had never been.
You wish you had ashless chaps.
I do.
I want those.
Yeah. my face has eyes on it like Cherry, so from Pee Wee Herman. Those lashes are itchy. But yeah, like, it was just fucking awesome. I'm kind of a bit of like stumbling at a loss for words because it was really an incredible night and it really meant a lot to me too. I mean, there was a mini SYS 346 reunion because dear friend and early Trick or Treat Radio guest Brian Kokonak was there, so it was pretty cool. It was really cool. And without Brian Kokonak, I certainly wouldn't be fucking sitting here right now. So, let alone in a band called the Deadites. Like, I'd probably, I don't know, I don't know what I'd be doing. Not be alive. Because he showed me Clive Barker and Depeche Mode, and he and I got Evil Dead together for the first time, and that was fucking it. It was the end of the road for me. Like,
Yep.
Things were set, I'd be a Star Wars nerd like Alberto.
Like your other son?
Yeah, well, I have good-looking kids.
They must not be yours then.
No, they are mine.
So I do want to get back because I realized we didn't really let Goro talk very much. But Goro, I want to know what's going on over at Talk Without Rhythm. Obviously, you came off of your massive. What year in a row is this that you did your 31 days of Halloween?
Ridiculous o'clock.
This was the 9th annual
Ninth,
31
okay.
Days of Halloween.
I almost said 10, so I was giving you a little too much credit. But
Yep.
so obviously October was a little bit of a of a hellish
Fun time.
Yeah,
Fun time, yeah.
fun but busy. So you managed to get through. You basically spanned films from I believe the 20s or 30s, and went all the way up to current.
Yeah, I think the earliest film that I did, and let me just scroll through here. It's got to be into the
I think
it
late
was the
20s.
30s.
Oh, 30s. Okay.
Late 1934, The Phantom of the Convent,
Yes.
which our buddy Bill and Chris actually covered over on their show at one point.
That's right.
But yeah, all the way up until just this year with the release of the film Skeletons in the Closet from Tony Wash.
Huh.
Yeah, there you go. So spanned about 70 or so years, 70, 80 years of
Give
cinema.
or take, yeah.
Yeah, in the span of 31 days. So if you guys have not checked it out, and they're pretty easy listens. I would say average between like 12 and 20 minutes, and then
Yeah,
if you,
somewhere on there.
yeah, and if you cut out if people aren't into the song at the end, they can even cut a few minutes off at the end there if they don't want to
It's my favorite part.
listen to the music at the end. But yeah, you could probably binge those very bingeable.
I missed a couple.
Yeah, I
That's fair.
unfortunately did too. I tried to keep up this year, and I would say I got 3/4 of them down, but there was a few that I missed. Toward the end I had a cherry pick, so of course I did Demon Warp and some of the other ones that
Of course.
Yep.
Yeah. What killed me is that you hit the ground running with your post October
Mhm.
offering, so I started to get fucking antsy of some of the stuff that I wanted to listen to that.
yeah.
like,
Well, it is always the fun one because it's always the sense, 31 days is over, it's fine. Oh shit, I still got to put out a regular episode. Fuck.
right.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it was a great job again. I very much appreciate you and I's very similar views on Rocktober Blood.
That's a fun one, man.
Because Coop almost
I had-
divorced me.
Well, I had way too much fun with that movie than I should have, but I don't think anybody in the world loves it as much as our buddy Coop.
He was pissed. He was really pissed at me.
But yeah, just been doing my thing over at Talk Without Rhythm, putting out weekly episodes, maybe a day or two late from week to week, but yeah, still having fun.
And so obviously you did Illang the Wolf Brigade on your own show a few weeks back, and what are some of the other films that you've done recently?
Well, looking into the stuff that I did in November, kicked things off with Illang the Wolf Brigade and The Night Comes for Us.
Yeah.
Both movies you guys will either have or will have covered by the end of this night. From there, it was on to more VOD horror stuff with the film Terrified, which I believe is from Argentina or Buenos Aires or somewhere in South America,
Yep.
over on Shudder. And then it's not Spanish. I forgot the name of the thing. Anyway, it's the film Elementary, The Blacksmith and the Devil, which if you guys haven't seen, you should watch it. It's spectacular.
As a matter of fact, don't mean to cut you off, but I found out a couple days ago that I guess Guillermo del Toro is producing the remake of Terrified.
Interesting. That should be interesting.
Yeah.
Well, especially since, just as the weird sort of tie-in, that Elementary was produced by Alex de la Iglesias.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we got that same sort of weird connection there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, when I saw that initially, I thought he directed it. I got all excited about it because I do love most of his films that I've seen. But then I saw that he just produced it. But I still was interested because it looks super interesting. I haven't had a chance to watch it.
I liked it more than you, I think, Al Goro.
Well, I actually quite enjoyed that film. It was Terrified that I was a little bit down on, but I still think
Terrified.
it did quite fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we were talking about Elementary.
Elementary, I haven't watched it because.
You should. You really should. And definitely keep an eye on this director, Paul Okiho Alijo, because as to the best of my knowledge, this is his first feature film. He's done a couple shorts prior to this, but he's going to be a guy to watch. I have a feeling that he's got a lot to say, and he has a very interesting way of saying it. But other than that, some of the highlights from November on the Thanksgiving episode was the getting together with the family for some good old-fashioned cannibalism. So I finally got around to covering the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Nice.
And Motel Hell, which was a first-time watch for me.
Nice.
And good lord, Motel Hell is a lot of fucking fun.
Yeah, I really.
So good.
I had a double DVD of that and Disturbed.
Yeah. Oh no.
Nice.
Deranged.
Deranged. Yeah.
Deranged. Yeah. The riff on Ed Gein.
Yep. That's the cut version, by the way.
I've wanted to do
Deranged?
Motel Hell on like a. Well, obviously, when we do Blinkbuster video, we let Jared Blinkhorn pick, but that was one of the ones I was hoping to angle for eventually to get on the show because I think that'd be fun.
Oh, yeah, I could definitely see you guys sinking your teeth into Motel Hell. And I just love the fact that no matter how deep you get into the horror scene, and I don't claim to be the most knowledgeable or well-versed horror fan out there, but I've seen quite a bit, that there's still films like this just waiting for you. And I've heard people talk about Motel Hell from time to time, but I don't think anybody has sold it as much as I would have needed, because if they had, I would have checked out this movie a long time ago, because it is just so goddamn good.
Oh, it is. It's great. That and Tourist Trap. Those are two films back in the day.
It's funny you bring that up because I always associate those two together.
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah,
I do. And those two do not get the respect they deserve. That and the third film, The Funhouse. Those films,
Funhouse.
Those are like the trifecta for me as far as films that just don't get the respect that they deserve.
Yeah, they both have something. All three of those have something in common too. Is I think their most effectiveness of having some scares to some degree are almost unintentional stuff. There's like a mental Dutch angle with all those movies that just make them all like very, very unsettling at parts. As fun as Motel Hell is, like there's just something about it that always as a kid like kind of gave me the heebie-jeebies.
Takes all kind of critters.
And Goro also did a few other flicks that we did recently in Hold the Dark and also Apostle. So if you guys
that was in November October where I discussed with the boys over at Strange Highways. Had Paul and Kevin on there.
Yep. Yeah, that was
the Cancer Man was Apostle, right?
The Cancer Man was Apostle and Hold the Dark. Yeah, we talked about ghost stories with Paul and Kevin.
Correct.
That's right.
I got to tell you, Algoro, the one of the episodes I just finished, I actually think I have the bunker review left, which I'm excited about. But your World War I, World War II cinema kind of context preamble at the beginning of that show was really, really great. I really, really
I'm glad
enjoyed
you
that.
liked it, man. I wasn't terribly pleased with how that came out, but I'm glad you dug it, man.
No, I mean, I'm surprised. I mean, I'm not surprised because I know you, but like, yeah, I thought it was great. It was very, I mean, it's always good to hear someone like, not that World War II, anything about like World War One, World War II cinema is necessarily niche, but it's something that I really, really enjoy. So like to hear you talk about it so eloquently was a treat for me.
Well, and it's an interesting thing that the fact that is kind of a dearth of World War One horror films, because you figure with just how horrific the nature of that warfare was, that even no matter every war is absolutely terrible, but just the psychological impact that had on the people fighting it,
Right.
because nobody had seen these kind of weapons deployed before. This kind of mass scale human slaughter was pretty much unknown in the world, because all of this technology was developed during a period where there wasn't a whole lot of major conflicts between the world powers. It was a relative lull period.
Right.
You had the Crimean War in there, which some people look as kind of the precursor to it. But World War One just introduced an entire theater of atrocity to
Right.
people. And when you can take something like that and apply it to a horror context, it feels like they'd be natural bedfellows.
Right.
But there isn't a whole lot of horror exploration of World War One, in contrast to World War Two. And I got into my theories as to why that might necessarily be the case.
Yeah.
But I seriously want to check out the book that I've referenced in there. I'll see if I can find the title. But essentially, the theory that World War One created the modern horror scene, because so many of those World War One veterans then went on to work in Hollywood and became filmmakers.
Right.
It was the book Wasteland: The Great War and the Origin of Modern Horror.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the Universal monster movies that we are aware of, they came out of the horrors of World War One.
Right. It also kind of changed westerns a little bit too in its first step from Gene Autry to kind of black hat western, because guys like Ford came back and made some stuff that I believe he made The Searchers, and that certainly
Well, that was post World War II.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay. It seems it's very cynical for the time. I think.
Oh yeah.
So I'm not surprised. I'm thought it was at a different time, but it was a really great speech, man. It was a really great. I always am. I think that there are a lot of people, and I'm in the process of doing it right now, who could copy, not right now, but on my free time, who could copy elements of your show wholesale. Like the format and everything else. It's a very well formatted, well set up show, and I see a lot of shows pop up that I feel are not as eloquent or good in my opinion, but format wise are similar. But the thing that I think has really set you apart in the last 3 or 4 years, the thing that I enjoy the most is your opening segment, your opening speech, your opening salvo, because I think that your point of view is educated and honest, but it's also you handle material that somebody else might handle hoity-toity in a really accessible way.
For the layman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
even though he's super intelligent, I feel like he's not talking down.
Yeah,
He's
no,
like,
I never.
yeah.
Thank you. I never feel that way. It's just a matter of someone else might be not keep up, might not have a bunch of books about World War II and whatever else.
Yeah.
But movies and all sorts of stuff in different genres. It's great, man. So thank you.
Oh, well, all credit to that has got to go to Joe Bob Briggs, because the thing I've been able to appreciate him for years, and what he continues to do this day, is that he doesn't downplay what he knows, but he presents it like it's just something he's interested in.
Yeah.
He has perfected that. Because he's an incredibly talented and intelligent man,
Mm-hmm.
but he just says it like you're having a beer with him.
Yeah.
And I've laid my influences out for everybody to see on that one. That if I could even approach the quality that Joe Bob Briggs has been able to do, that's always the goal.
And just to mention the book again, I just actually popped it in our Amazon store if anyone is interested. It's Wasteland, the Great War, and the Origins of Modern Horror. And it is available in hardcover for like $17. You can get it on Kindle or the audiobook if you have some, you can get a free trial to Audible or use some of your credits and just listen to the audiobook for free if you sign up for a trial or use one of your credits. So you can also buy an audio CD, which is cool as well. So it's pretty
One CD.
Huh?
Or is it?
I don't know. It just says audio CD. It doesn't tell me how many. But yeah, I'm super interested. I didn't know anything about this
psyched.
book, and I'm curious. So I might be checking this one out.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to eventually tracking it down.
So if anyone's interested, I just popped it on the Amazon store, and I'll probably include it in the show notes as well if you guys are curious.
Hey, and all jokes aside, I'm spoiled because I get it, every 6 or 8 months when we record a Hossman show. But
hey, we're only 2 months overdue.
behind.
yeah,
Thank you.
But I think that these are the best 2 voices, radio voices in podcasting that we have on tonight. Monster Zero and Michael.
You hear that, Aries? He's praising you.
Yeah. But no.
Fuck you, Mars.
Oh, there it is. There it
No,
is.
you guys talk great.
I really didn't want to do
You're
it
not
this
very
time.
nice guys, but you talk you talk well.
Well, yeah.
So-
Bob Briggs.
So yeah, trying to stay busy over on the show.
Yeah, so if at this point, if you listen to our show and you haven't checked out El Goro's show, I don't know what you're doing wrong, but you're doing something wrong. But go give it a listen. Go subscribe, and if you can't add another podcast to your rotation, at least subscribe and then check out what he does every week. And if there's a film that interests you, then give it a listen. I know it's hard to for me it's hard for me to even fit in my favorite podcasts because there's just so many of them, and so many of my friends do them that I just can't listen to every single show every week.
Well, you need less friends then.
I guess so. See you later, MZ.
Damn you for being popular and supporting your friends.
Yeah. I like Andy's schedule because by the time they end up putting one out, I'm ready. I'm caught up on everything else.
Oh, Triefenbach?
Yeah.
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 They do every 2 weeks, and then he took. I think they took November off. So
Yeah, he's never going to come back, though, because he doesn't want to be afraid he's going to get roped into, like, some sort of terrorist plot I have.
Gotta say, it was great hearing him on there because I go back a long way with
Yeah.
Andy. He was actually one of the first people to listen to my very, very, very early version of Talk Without Rhythm that doesn't really exist anymore. So it was great to hear him on this. It was worlds colliding.
yeah, it was great having Andy on. I had never really talked to Andy a ton. I know Mars had talked to him a little bit more, but he fit right in. Like, it was a great fit and great guy, super knowledgeable, and yeah, it just everything just felt really good about having him on. So big.
And Andy, if you're listening, we still miss you at Wasteland. I'm gonna keep reminding you.
So I've been ignoring the chat room because we've been having some good conversation here, but about 30 minutes ago, Evil Corny says, "Tell El Goro I said what up, Wolfie." So Evil Corny gives a big shout out to Goro, and he says, "I really
Thank you, Evil.
He said I really liked El Goro's Birdemic episode."
Oh, good lord.
I'll never forgive Pat.
That movie is... there's not enough negative adjectives to describe that flick.
Well, you're the math
Yeah.
guy. Suss it out.
Yeah.
I mean, for the longest time, I could say definitively that the least favorite film I'd ever discussed on the show was Solar Babies. But
Aw, that movie's
Birdemic,
awesome. Oh wait, the
fuck.
remake or the original?
The original Solar Babies.
Oh, it's so good.
with most of the cast of Lost Boys.
Yeah, it's so good.
They remade
Don't listen
Solar
to him.
Babies?
He
Raven
thinks-
Shadow loves Solar Babies, right?
Don't listen to Wolfie. He thinks Spy Kids is a good movie.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Don't
Good for
listen to him.
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
I'm Wolfie. I'm pissed now.
You're pissed. Well, we're gonna get into the films in just a few moments, so we can duke it out verbally.
So hold your rage in.
Yeah. Fake vegan.
Calm your shoulder pads.
Yeah. Wolf.
Calm yourself.
Hey, I don't like these shoulder pads. at all.
shoulder pads.
I do. I do. I do
Tackle.
have shoulder pads. I look like fucking Jushin Ligar.
Mars.
That is a very 80s style jacket, Mars.
Thank you.
I do like the jacket, but damn, I didn't realize.
Yeah,
oh,
I don't
man.
like the shoulder pads. That's Aries. I've been complaining about
Marzenstein.
for a while. Yeah, I'm not happy. Yeah, no, Wolfie's a good vegan. Wolfie's vegan like I'm straight.
$20 is $20.
We both like the cheese occasionally.
the cheddar.
Aries.
Oh wow.
Just make sure you shave.
If Aries is giving me money and if it's by the minute, it gives me $20, I'm gonna have to give him 18 back.
Just make sure you shave, Mars. If it's one thing Aries hates, it's a rash between the thighs.
That's 2 minutes more than MZ. You'd have to give him his whole 20 back.
All right. I have the feeling like blowing MZ would be like when a good doctor gives you a shot, right? Like it's over, it's done before you even know you had it.
Yeah.
You're like, up, you're done. Oh, really?
Touches your lips.
Yeah.
He's done.
Yeah, it's done.
It stings for a little while afterwards, but
hey. So long as I get mine.
Yeah.
Wow, selfish.
Yeah.
You might feel a little prick, but
Yeah.
Hey, you get $20.
Keyword is little.
Yeah. Little prick from a little prick. Is Evil Corny the only one in the chat room?
No, we got Jesse G. I was trying to say. He says, "What's
Nice.
up, fam?
Happy birthday
Hey
to you.
Jesse G.
Happy birthday to you.
Raven Show, sing!
happy birthday.
What is up? Are you pissed at Goro? Is there heat?
No,
Yeah.
man.
Why are you talking?
what did I do, man?
Yeah, what do you do?
Oh, great.
Goro's
Now
a big
what
Raven Shadow
We got
fan.
fucking 2 fucking movies to discuss. Let's
Yeah.
get into it,
Yeah.
man.
What?
We got a
Whoa,
lot
whoa,
of
Raven
fucking
Shadow.
time.
What's wrong?
I'm ready for the discuss.
No, there's something wrong.
Nothing wrong.
Yeah,
No.
tell us.
I'm good.
Lay down on the couch and tell us
Lay
what's
it
wrong.
on the hot break.
Bring MZ in.
Dynamo knows a lot about psychiatrists now.
Lay
So.
him down and smack him, yak him.
Ixnay on the psychiatrist.
Oh shit.
But yeah,
Something's up, Raven
I am
Shadow.
worried. I am worried, Raven Shadow. I can tell.
I can tell. Something's wrong.
Are you leaving me? Is that what it is?
What can we do to cheer you up?
Nah, man.
Want me to show you my balls?
I'm
I've
getting
seen him.
I'm getting thrown
Matt
through the
Murdock
fucking
has seen those
barbershop
things.
window.
Is your thong bothering your taint?
Ooh.
Ooh, wow.
Well, it's a
hey.
regular Wednesday night, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, anyway, Jesse G. Happy
Birthday.
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. I did sex with your mama, then out came you.
and the rest of the crew.
Right.
So yeah, happy birthday, Jesse G. And I guess you know what? Maybe we should get to talking about some movies.
Yeah, let's get on.
Because we got 2 to talk about, and I could see them being pretty engrossing conversations here. So before we do that, though, let folks know how they can follow us or support us, whatever. You guys, actually, you know what I want to do? If you guys, you know, we just bought a new computer for the studio. It's not running it yet. I finally got all my parts so I can upgrade it. I'm gonna pull a Goro. I'm gonna do some IT on this bitch, and upgrading the memory, Goro, putting in an SSD. So
Yeah, boy.
so gonna do some upgrades on it. Hopefully we'll have it up and running in the studio within the next couple weeks. Still got to install all the software and everything, make sure everything works. But yeah, so if you guys want to help support us, we could certainly use some support monetarily or in sharing. But if you do want to help us monetarily, you can head over to trickortreatradio.com. Scroll down, you're going to see an Amazon link. Click on it. I know you guys got to buy some gifts. Most of you are probably going to use Amazon. Go ahead, click the link, and everything you purchase in that session gets attributed to us. It doesn't cost them any extra, Raven Shadow.
But it helps keep the lights on.
And it helps pay for the computer. So if you guys want to help support, you can just use our link on the trickortreatradio.com site. Just click on the Amazon logo, and it'll bring you right to Amazon and put in our affiliate link. And also, we have a donate button. So if you guys want to go ahead and send us money via PayPal, there's a PayPal donate button on the front page of trickortreatradio.com. And then we also have a store. You click on the store on the website, you're going to see some digital content. We have the greatest hits of Trick or Treat Radio Volumes 1 through 3. We got some other Deadites-related stuff on there. There's some physical stuff, some buttons, some T-shirts, and some download cards, stuff like that. So if you guys want to go ahead and support, you can help us that way as well. And then also, in addition, we have the Amazon store. So if you want to just skip the link, head right to our store. I post up pretty much all the movies that we discuss, unless they're on Netflix. Obviously, you know, it's not available to buy if it's on Netflix, so I can't post those ones. But head over to amazon.com/shop/the Deadites. And I even just posted up the book that Elgora was talking about there, Wasteland, The Great War, and the Origins of Modern Horror. So it is up there now, and you go there, and it's broken up into a few different categories. We've got films, we've got books, we've got music, and games, and some other stuff there. So you can just search through them and go ahead, and if you purchase something from our store, we get a cut of it.
So you should just install a tip system into the chat. That seems pretty lucrative in Cam.
Yeah, you're right. Oh man, we should totally do that.
Holy cow!
Ding, cling.
Well, actually, Twitch actually does that, and I think there's something in YouTube where you can get that. I don't know if you have to have a certain amount.
I was
going to
see if Raven Shadow and I wanted to start one of those.
Are you gonna do cam shows?
Yeah.
You guys are
Could do
gonna
that, right?
make out?
Sexy speakeasy.
From the sexy speakeasy.
Oh, it'd be nice.
Raven Shadow,
Podcast
why don't you
live.
get into that?
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You get some tips from watching cam.
Nah, man. This is
Nah.
not enough of this.
Nah,
No?
man, nah.
No.
Cam's the one with the girl, not with the red eye.
Oh, no. I thought it was the Cam Neely story.
Oh yeah.
Go Bruins.
Yeah. Kick his ass, Seabass.
Oh.
So, well, that's how you can help us. And also, if you can't help out monetarily, what you can do is you can give us a 5-star review. We haven't really been asking for them all that often, and we haven't gotten many recently. And I'm trying to figure out this magic sort of algorithm that Apple Podcasts has, which that is, all the platforms matter, but that is the most popular platform in terms of podcasts. So if you guys have yet to do so, give us a 5-star review. You can just pull up Apple Podcasts. Maybe I'll even create a video on how to do it, because I know some people ask, like, well, how do I do it? I don't know how to leave a rating. So you just open up Apple Podcasts, the app, if you have it, or you can even just do it on iTunes if you on a computer. But you just navigate to Trick or Treat Radio, and then if you scroll down a little bit, you're going to go ahead and see, the rating. You'll see, what our rating is. It's a 5 out of 5 right now, and how many ratings we have. And then you can tap to rate 1 to 5 stars. Obviously, we'd appreciate the 5 stars. And then you can also go ahead and leave a few words as well. So just let people know what you dig about the show, and so people can see it and find out why they should listen. So if you haven't done so, we would really appreciate that. That would be a great holiday gift.
It's true.
If we could get more of those.
iTunes algorithm seems to be a lot like Netflix advertising.
Well, no, at least Apple Podcasts has an algorithm.
It's true.
So there is that, but I mean, I'm actually learning more about it. But I think to get on What's Hot, it's really just how many listens you get. So if a lot of people listen, it doesn't necessarily matter how many subscriptions you have, even though I think that might factor in. But it's how many listens. Because if you have more subscribers, obviously you're probably going to get more listens. So,
Correct.
It's sort of goes hand in hand there. But it would be nice to, because right now, if you don't have a celebrity, heading up your podcast, or if you're not part of like a major network, a lot of the shows are just getting buried.
What about Raven Shadow?
What about him?
He's a celebrity.
He's a celebrity?
Yeah.
How so?
Porn star.
Not a booby star.
Celebrities, porn stars.
Aries. I thought Aries was going to bring up our bear demographic, but it hasn't worked out that way. The Jack Radcliffe of podcasting.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
It's pretty bare end of that table, actually. Like,
No one's talking down there. Something's going
I
on.
don't know.
You guys have a fight?
Did the president of Millbury die?
All right, so I think that's it. So if you guys want to, and if you haven't
They
subscribed,
just found out Millbury Amusement Center closed.
and if you haven't subscribed to the show yet, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and subscribe. And while you're at it, subscribe to Talk Without Rhythm, as we mentioned. So now we're gonna head to a break, and Raven Shadow is gonna let us know what he did to prepare for this December's Cram Jam.
Oh, fuck, Johnny. I swore a lot. I'll be honest with you.
All right,
Yelled.
because of the
stuff.
movies or for other stuff.
Well, let's not put the cart before the horse. I mean, but no, it was Sunday. I woke up, I had a song on my head, David Bowie.
You had a
David-
song in your head.
Yeah, David Bowie.
What song?
I don't know the song.
Under Pressure.
No, it's the one like Church on Time, right?
Oh, Modern Love.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
fucking,
yeah.
thank you.
That's my favorite, one of my
Love?
favorites.
And
yeah.
I had a fucking epiphany.
Yeah.
Right? So I
Oh,
wake up.
really?
I wake up.
You smoked it?
No, I came later. I had a
So
song in my
you
head.
went and saw your guy then?
I did that. Yeah, I did that last week. It was nice. It was actually cool too. That was cool too. We hung out. We watched videos.
Of course you did.
No, we watched the guy, the King of Sting. Do you know him?
The King of Sting.
Yeah. He gets his old gimmick. He's on like YouTube or shit like that. But his whole thing, he goes to other countries and gets stung by shit. That's
stupid.
That's his job, right?
That is stupid.
And
he gets paid for that?
I guess so. He has a book coming out.
Oh, fuck him.
But it was this big fucking. You might know this, Goro, because you're fucking smart. It's some big like Japanese like hornet. It's about as big as like. You're talking about like. It's,
Yeah, one of the Lost Sing Sang Soon sang did a whole fucking like he was talking on a movie one day. He goes, "You know about Japanese hornet?" I'm like, "No," and he just fucking talked about it for 20 minutes.
So
I have
pretty
20
much-
minutes of saying talking about it.
pretty much they're about the size of like between a superpowers DC superpowers figure and like legend scale.
Jesus.
So they're big motherfuckers. So this guy wrangles it, and gets stung, and then he videos himself, getting all, fucking tuned up. But they're so weird. These hornets, they're fucking weaponized. Like all they do is just they go in and their job is just destroy shit, and they don't even make any kind of honey. What they produce is something called vom or vam.
Shit.
And
Vom.
yeah, it's like Hornet Coke. It doesn't make like honey, but it makes its own like Coke. And you can order that shit. You can order it's like $15. I want to get some.
Yeah, it's fucking wild.
Holy
Right?
shit.
Yeah, I just sent Wolfie a picture of it.
Jesus, fuck.
This thing is fucking frightening.
It's fucking huge. But then they're killing like animals. They're killing like people. They're all running amok in Japan. So I'm fucking scared. So think about that.
Yeah.
Look at the size of this thing.
Yeah, check him out. The King of Sting. He's a fucking doorknob.
Jesus, fuck me upside down. Christ, what is this thing?
It is
Oh,
fucked
there's-
The
up.
size of it.
Yeah.
There's Goro sent us a
Yeah,
picture.
Yeah, exactly, Gore. Yeah, that's the
Yeah, that's the
motherfucker.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Fuck that noise.
Yeah, no,
You know, I've always wanted to go to Japan. I just reconsidered.
I don't think they're everywhere.
Yeah,
Right?
no.
They're not.
No,
they're not
they're
in the
in-
fucking city.
I also think, considering you didn't go to the Palladium once for a show you had tickets to, you didn't go to Japan.
Yeah, they're like holding by the limos, holding signs.
You won't go to
Monster Zero.
Boston an hour away. I don't think you're going to Japan.
But to be fair, there's probably like 90% more Transformers in Japan.
That's true. You know what? Now I
So
gotta
he's
start weighing my
incentivized.
options. I got to start weighing my options, Goro.
There you go. Super Convoy's not going to buy himself, man.
That's very true.
Maybe that's how Rufus and Ronaldo's origin. They got stung by a Japanese hornet.
Yeah, jeez.
Okay, just say those words so
Yeah,
we can
say
go.
it.
So I got scared. Realized I'm not gonna go to Japan.
No.
So I just fucking stayed home and strapped on.
Do you love a scary story? Do you love to dance? The Big Scary Monster Haunts at Midnight is a collection of dark songs about sex, love, death, revenge, and the end of the world. Brought to you by the world's greatest monster hunting electroshock band, the Deadites. Available on iTunes, Google Music, Amazon, CD Baby, and all other digital distribution sites.
This is Matt Kennedy of Astron 6. You might know me as Manborg. You might know me as Father John Sullivan in Father's Day. But what's important right now is that you're listening to Trick or Treat Radio.
I'm Ruby Burble.
What's up, y'all? It's me, the Yeti. Telling all the ladies that they couldn't be more fine and that we should knock those boots like Frankenstein. When I want to get my nerd on, I go to Facebook and I go to the Trick or Treat Radio Facebook group. That's the place where I get to talk about all the hip new horror movies, all the cool comics,
What comics?
RPGs, video games, you name it, we're talking about shit on there. And you could not be any cooler if you were the coolest kid in school, Be the first kid on your block to swing their cock over at the Trick or Treat Radio Facebook group. Just go to Facebook, search for Trick or Treat Radio, ask to join, and it's like Nerd Nirvana, baby, without the shotgun blast. This is the Yeti, signing out. See you at the Trick or Treat Radio Facebook group.
Follow us on Twitter at The Deadites, TheDeadites.com, and TrickOrTreatRadio.com.
I can tell you I'm never coming back on this show. Especially now that I did that thing that you just made me do. Which I will be sending you an invoice for.
And we are back on Trick or Treat Radio. All right. So we're going to kick off December double feature Cram Jam with a film called Illang, the Wolf Brigade. Now, this film is rated TVMA. It is 2 hours and 18 minutes. It is an action sci-fi film, and it is directed and written by Kim Ji-woon, based on an original story from Mamoru Oshii. And so I guess, well, I'll go through the rest of the cast here first. And it stars Jung Woo-sung, Han Hyo-ju, Gang Dong-won, Han Yi-ri. And for some reason, I don't know why on IMDb it didn't list the lead. It didn't have the character who played Lin. So
that was Gong Dong-won.
Oh, okay. Oh, it just has his name listed incorrectly then. That's
That's weird.
Yeah.
Somebody really needs to fix the listings on this thing on Wikipedia and IMDb.
It's listed as Im and not Lim.
Yeah, it's weird.
And a couple other characters have the wrong name as well. It's fucking bizarre. Anyways.
Need to reach out to Yuri and figure out if there's a reason for that.
Yeah, exactly. So, and as mentioned, the film is from Kim Ji-woon, who is probably one of the show's most well-liked directors, I would say. He's done some amazing flicks. He did The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. He did I Saw the Devil, The Age of Shadows, The Last Stand, all flicks that we've, and The Foul King, all flicks that we've reviewed on the show. And he's also done several others. He did a segment in The Three Extremes Part 2. He did A Tale of Two Sisters.
Yeah. Great flick.
A Bittersweet Life. And he also did The Quiet Family, which was the basis for Happiness of the Katakoris, which was remade by Takashi Miike. So we did Age of Shadows last year. As Goro actually pointed out, he and I were talking independently about this, and I thought we did it toward the end of last year as well, but we ended up doing it, I think it was like in April or May of 2017.
Yeah, it was May when I looked it up. Because I could have sworn you did it around this time as well, but I think it's just because it was very well represented in your top 13s.
Yeah. Because I know a lot of us really, really dug that flick. Especially, I don't remember what you guys saw. I remember I fucking loved it, though. I love The Age of Shadows so much.
Yeah, I remember The Age of Shadows. I think that hit around number 8 or number 7 on my list.
So top 10 for you. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Especially amongst all the horror and everything else we do. But, yeah, so Kim Ji-woon is definitely up there in terms of favorite directors, for the show. And the synopsis for the film: Director Kim Ji-woon's next feature film based on the original feature animation Jinro the Wolf Brigade. That's quite the synopsis.
I guess they're just assuming everybody's seen Jinro.
But
Well, there's another one here.
Yeah, the
if
synopsis. Oh, you got it?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Set in the distant future where both North and South Koreas agree to establish a joint government, which has been in preparation for a duration of 7 years. The plot focuses on political uprisings and opposing sides which grow fierce when a special police unit is formed to stop the chaos.
Yeah. So, Goro, I know you've already talked about this, and you've also reviewed Jinro on your show. I think it was a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that was in May of 2017, so it's just last year.
So just last year, okay. And so, as mentioned, it's based on a story from Mamoru Oshii, and it obviously was a feature animated film from 1999, if I'm not mistaken, called Jinro: The Wolf Brigade. It was directed by Hiroyuki Okira, and was produced by Bandai Namco. So, and that flick. And you could probably illuminate a little bit better here, Goro. That was a pretty well-received anime feature, right?
Oh, yeah. It was very well hyped amongst the anime fans during that time period at the time it was released. Took me a while to get around to seeing it, but I distinctly remembered a lot of positive buzz around it at its time of its release, and it's regarded by quite a few people as being one of the premier examples of anime as a feature film.
Yeah, and so you had actually pointed out to me, and you said I should watch Jinro, and I was able to fit it in. It's amazing. I normally can hardly fit in one film a week, but I actually managed to watch 3 this week because I did watch Jinro, and I'm glad I did. I'll get to it probably a little bit more as we start talking about the film a little bit more. But I think I almost wish I'd watched them in reverse order, but I was glad that I saw it, and the stories are pretty similar. There's a lot of similarities between the two. The major difference being the anime was obviously set in an alternate 1950s Japan. And, this was set in a future alternate version of Korea. So, there is that major difference. And also, because this was made for a Korean audience and it was, South Korean film, there's probably more cultural references that, than in the Japanese one that I may not be able to discern because obviously, I've never been to either country, but I think
haven't.
No, I'd like to.
Okay,
but I think it just proves. I know a lot of times, us Americans here, we get very, like when there's a film that's about to be remade. Let's use the first one that comes to mind is Wreck and Quarantine. Now, I actually haven't seen Quarantine, but from all intents and purposes, it was actually a pretty good remake.
it's very true to the original.
Yeah, but that's just what they do because there are other Aries out there who don't like reading subtitles. Most of us don't care. I don't care honestly at all.
I mean, there was really nothing that the makers of Quarantine could do to improve upon.
Oh yeah,
what Rec did.
Rec's brilliant. Yeah, so it's difficult to.
Oh shit!
Jeez, Harry just busted in the fucking
Oh
door.
my god! Well, you missed a T.
Surprise, motherfuckers!
I've been outside smoking crack. I'm all hopped up.
Oh Jesus!
I drank that shit before I came in the room.
So obviously we have some differences between the cultures there, and also one is. I mean, I'm stating the obvious here, but one is an animated feature and one is, live action. And
Say what?
And the difference between the two, obviously, there's, you can do certain things in live action that you can't do in animation and vice versa. So, but I will say that I think Kim Ji-woon did a phenomenal job of paying tribute to the anime. Some of the scenes, Goro, were like ripped right out of the anime.
Yeah, and that's really the big reason that I wanted you to watch it. Jesus, what happened?
What happened?
I don't know. I heard a radio show say, Jesus Christ.
What did you do?
Was there a Japanese horn on your ball sack?
No. I was just returning the rest of the DVD to Mars.
What?
Oh, okay.
What? Yeah.
Watch DVD.
He charged that Blu-ray like fucking Gambit.
Gambit.
Oh my god, would you miss
It exploded because it's gone. Oh, there it is.
Exploded.
You don't
'cause it's
throw
gone.
Blu-rays.
What if there was a Blu-ray in there?
There is a Blu-ray in there, you savage.
There's a broke-ray in there.
Yeah, right.
It fell into the same negative space that Mars did when he tried to chop MZ.
Yeah.
I felt really bad about that. Still.
All right,
But it
Goro,
made for a
you were
great
going to make a
gift.
point. You were going to make a point,
Yeah.
Goro.
All right, so the reason I really wanted you to watch it prior to this, not only due to the fact that Jinro is just an excellent film, but it also helps inform the viewing of Illang, because it informs a lot of the choices that Kim Ji-woon made from a visual standpoint, but it also makes it for an interesting counterpoint when we start getting into the end. And we probably don't necessarily need to go too deep into it, but Illang was designed for the widest of possible audiences. I mean, this was a joint venture between, it was made by Warner Brothers Korea with an eye towards major distribution. Didn't do quite as good as they had wanted it to do, but
It actually
It
bombed.
failed.
This movie tanked.
It did terrible, but this was a film that was designed for a wide audience. On the counterpoint, Jinro was not. It was somewhat more tailored towards a slightly more niche audience. Thus, the endings between the two are starkly different.
Yes,
and that kind of accounts for about the only complaint that I have against Illang. But to keep things broad, I think that Kim Ji-woon did an excellent job in capturing a lot of the feel of Jinro. The thing that strikes me as strange, though, is that it's you were talking about the differences between a live action and animated feature, that Illang actually comes off as more vibrant, oddly enough, than the animated Jinro. Jinro was very much kind of a subdued affair. Even the palette that they were using was very muted. Whereas Illang, it seemed that Kim Ji-woon was empowered by the animated origins of the story, and thus the colors were just brought up in incredible amounts.
I totally agree, and it is interesting because this is going to, like, it almost made the anime Jinro feel like it was black and white by comparison. Like, this had such a vibrant color palette, and it just this was for my money one of the most like beautiful films we've seen this year in terms of lighting, the way it was shot. It was just fucking gorgeous, and it reminded me of Age of Shadows in terms of, I remember when we reviewed that, I talked about how that felt like I don't mean traditional, but I kept thinking of like the golden age of Hollywood, of these epic, epic shots, and I just feel that maybe this one wasn't quite as epic because it felt a little bit more constrained due to a lot of the sets that they use, especially the interiors of the sewers and stuff. It's hard to really have a big epic shot when you're have such constraints like that. But just the way this film looked and everything was just like unfucking believable. I was just like in awe throughout the entire runtime of it because of that.
Yeah.
Tell you this, Korea, nice subways, nice sewers.
Well, he definitely did lean into the whole monolithic sewer system, and seeing that translated into live action, it almost felt like some of the underground settings that Guillermo del Toro would use, because that man loves himself an underground necropolis type setup.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely, and I totally, I agree that that he definitely paid homage to the anime, and he kept true to a lot of the shots, and a lot of the sets were like basically ripped right out of the anime. So the one thing I'm curious, I don't want Goro and Ida to keep talking about this. Have any of you guys in this room seen the anime Jinro, the Wolf Brigade?
No, I didn't even know it was anime.
Okay.
At all, but I mean, what?
But that's a good, counterpoint. So
yeah, you actually have a nice, for a long time you had a poster of it in that little subsection of the shop you work at.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I never. Even hearing it, I don't. Doesn't
I'll see
come
if I
to mind.
Pull up a poster. Maybe it'll.
If I saw it, maybe.
Yeah, I mean.
No, well, here's a question, because I know that at least Raven Shadow and Mars's knowledge of 90s comic books, it runs deep. I mean, you all were deep into it. But do you guys recall when early 90s Dark Horse actually picked up this license, and they released it as a series of comics called Hellhounds Panzer Cops?
Right.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
Okay, because I've yet to be able to track down issues of that particular. I'm not even sure if it was an adaptation or just a
Just translation.
translation of the manga. Okay, was it just a translation?
I'm actually not sure because if you had asked me, I would have thought
Mhm.
that it was called Jinro.
Yeah.
I seem to vaguely remember some covers.
And it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was the Jinro anime was directed by the same director of Ghost in the Shell, if I'm not mistaken.
No. Mamoru Oshii is the guy who wrote it, and he wrote Jinro, and he was the person who directed Ghost in the Shell. Hiroyuki
Oh, okay.
Okura was one of his disciples,
Okay.
and he basically Oshii couldn't fit it into his schedules, so he got Okura to do it instead.
Now,
Okay.
I've got a sorry, Raven Shaw. Sorry, Gert. I got a quick question for the two cats who had seen it.
Okay.
I might have been like, and not that it would change my view of it per se, but I ashamedly had never thought of this. Was a lot of the action right out of the anime?
A good deal of it.
Yes.
There were certain sequences that Kim Ji-woon added, but as far basically the beginning and the end were almost shot for shot.
Okay.
Well, parts of the beginning, the stuff in the sewers
Right, was
was
shot for shot.
almost shot for shot.
That looked anime. Because here's my thing. My problem with this film, and I liked it for starters. I'm not gonna say I didn't like it. My problem for this film is what usually gets me through his films and a lot of Korean cinema, because it's long and I don't I have the attention span of a 9-year-old and I don't have a ton of time. Is incredible action flourishes, and I felt a lot of the action in this was like more like a Mission Impossible knockoff than the kind of like even as traditional as Age of Shadows was, like I felt like there was an elegance to the violence and stuff like that, and I felt like it was very like stylized in its own way. Like this, I felt was very American, and I wonder if the anime, what I had wondered just now, but it would seem like no, if the anime was influential on directors like the guy who did the last two, because he's an animation guy, the guy who did the last two Mission Impossibles, and you know what I mean? Because it felt.
Brad Bird.
Well,
Yeah.
it's hard to say because the action in Jinro isn't all that kinetic or even all that exciting. It's just beautifully rendered.
Yeah.
So it's one of those that when you present something that's beautifully animated of something awful, it sells the awfulness of it almost more.
Right.
And Jinro gets by on a reputation for its strong visuals, and so much of it has to do with Oshii's original designs for the titular, Panzer cops, that it's such a striking image, the uniforms that they wear, and it lends itself to a great sort of visual flourish. But the action in there is somewhat presented matter-of-factly, stylized in the use of lighting, but nothing too terribly exciting. And I think that Kim Ji-woon was almost sort of approaching that sort of aesthetic. I mean, if you compare the action in this compared to what he's done in, well, The Good, the Bad, and the Weird in particular, and also to something like I Saw the Devil, where
Right.
he would have these greater stylistic flourishes, it almost felt like he was holding himself back, perhaps in deference to the source material.
Well, do you think the action was filmed broadly? Do you know
There,
like you
there
know
was
what I mean?
more action in Illang than there was in Jinro.
Yeah, but that's what I'm gathering. But I just felt like it was not. Like there's a reason that an American action movie isn't 2.5 hours long.
Well, yeah,
That-
and one of the things is they're definitely the strength of this, and maybe not the strength, but the center point is sort of the relationship between the two main characters. Like that is, the entire film is contingent upon that.
Right.
In terms of what happens, the tension throughout, and then also the climax is very dependent upon that. So that's why I think that there's a lot of emphasis put on the interplay between those two characters. So it is at times can be a bit slow because of that, and it's not your typical action film where there's 20 minutes of action and then 10 minutes of downtime. It's more of, I guess, a South Korean style, but it is done with sort of American flourishes. I will
But
agree with
the
that.
action that was there just wasn't that
There's not a ton of it.
engaging.
Yeah, it felt very
Yeah.
stymied.
Yeah.
The one
And
that
cliche.
probably had the most was the end showdown.
Yeah.
Well, and that was something that was entirely Kim Ji-woon's creation.
Yep. Yeah, it's there. That's where one of the things where it differs
Yeah.
from the anime.
and it's not.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, go ahead.
That just showdown wasn't. Like I don't expect everything to be like some of this modern action classics that we had, but like even if you watch like some of the two Mission Impossibles ago, like you can tell that even with like one guy being Tom Cruise and the other guy being a character actor, like the way it was like they definitely put a lot of thought into what should happen in that end fight. Like this like seemed like the end fight that would happen in like a $200,000 movie, like something where they just didn't have, you know what I mean? Like it just wasn't super inspired. Not a lot happened. And like I just think
Well, also like, and I'm not defending it per se, but I mean, look at what they were wearing.
Well, and the other side of it is that the way that these sort of special forces guys, these public security, I believe they were the special forces, the public security of the people they were fighting against, that they're almost meant to be like machines.
Right.
Yeah.
That when they're fully armored up, everything is staccato, everything is perfectly precise, and I think they were trying to reflect that in what would happen essentially if you got two Terminators, two T-800s to fight each other, and that's the style I think they were going after. But I will push back a little bit about the action being Americanized, because one thing I did appreciate in this was the fact that Kim Ji-woon allowed the action to breathe. He did not rely upon too much of fast editing or close camera shots. He generally kept the camera back. I mean, there was still a kinetic pace to a lot of the action sequences. But if you look at, for example, the shootout in the tower, if that was done by a typical American director using the house style that's so popular in so much of Hollywood these days, there would have been no real sense of geography. Everything would have been rapid-firely edited. You probably wouldn't be able to follow the action well enough at all. Whereas, to the credit of Kim Ji-woon, everything was very clean. Everything was very organized. And while that doesn't necessarily, blow your socks off in terms of artistic flourish, which is somewhat disappointing compared to what Kim Ji-woon has been able to do in the past, it did feel refreshing to me compared to the glut of Hollywood-style action, where they want to reveal emotion simply by fast editing.
I agree with that. It was his style of these things, but it definitely felt like American action movie greatest hits. Somebody jumped out of the window with a fire hose. Someone hit a car with another car and pushed it down the street sideways. Like it's all stuff we've seen. It was his take on it, and that's cool. You know what I mean? Like, I like Tim Burton, and Tim Burton is certainly
by the numbers.
I've always called him a stylized cover band. He's the 80s cover band that dresses like zombies or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, but so, I don't mind that, but I do feel like. It sort of strangely, with the exception of the tower thing, which I think he did, nobody does that fucking weird, has to be computer generated, liberated camera thing like he does. Like in the scene with the drone, like
from
above, it was fucking outrageous.
And those were directly out of the anime too. Most of them, anyways.
That's cool. Yeah.
I mean, I've never read the anime. I've never seen the anime. I never knew about the anime.
It's okay, go
but I mean, you.
That's all right.
But I mean, there are some obvious shots in this movie that read anime, and that was definitely one of them. The soldiers with that fucked up body armor. I mean that.
Oh yeah, that is almost directly out of the anime.
I mean, Jesus Christ.
There was a couple of augmentations on how the armor looked. They were definitely heavier armored, but the mask, it was spot on.
Oh my God,
and that was what initially. Yeah. Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it looks like. When I first saw that, I'm thinking, holy shit, that is fucking badass. I mean, that looks like Darth Vader fucked that crazy looking thing from Hardware.
Well, and that's honestly what. That's pretty fair. And that's honestly the great power of Illang, of Jinro, of the entire Kerberos saga, which is the larger work that Oshii has been doing since like 1987. That one image, and the thing is that it's so compelling, but it also speaks to some of the deeper themes of this, and also the alluring power of fascism. And that was something that Oshii was tackling on when he was doing his original stuff, because you compare it to Nazi uniforms, where they were designed by like fucking Hugo Boss designed like the SS uniforms.
Yeah.
The problem with fascism is that the accoutrement of fascism looks fucking cool.
Right.
Everybody can admit it. It looks badass. It's the same. It's the same thing with Judge Dredd. You know, he's the foot soldier of a fascist police state, but he seems so cool.
Right.
And that's part of the thing with Jinro and the extended stuff around it that are encompassing the Kerberos saga. The cops in this, they look cool. And it is tweaking that and then showing the inherent inhumanity of the people behind that mask that really a lot of the strength comes from in the story.
Well, I thought it was kind of cool, too, how the reason why they wore them, you know, where it showed them to be vulnerable or showing their...
right, because originally they didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to sound weird. There's a lot of fucking words in this. I mean, it was very fast reading. It was a lot to take in.
Oh, I'm right there with you, man. I mean,
Right.
even having some background in the story, trying to follow exactly who was who when they're just so rapid fire given to you,
Right.
you almost got to take notes.
Yeah, it's kind of like, all right, well, this group, we think they're the bad guys, but this is like the fascist government, so I think the bad guys are probably the good guys because the Nazis don't like them.
Well, there's a lot of gray area, too.
Yeah.
I mean,
So it's like no one was really good or bad.
I agree with
They're all
Raven
shades.
you
Shadow.
get a lot of backstory. You just know what each side is doing. You know, I mean,
right.
And that's definitely a failure, considering he did a similar thing in Age of Shadows so eloquently. And like you definitely knew who, like, you know, all those moving pieces were.
Well,
and
at
stuff.
first I didn't either. Like it took a little while for it to fit into place, I think. But this one, I think, because there's so much gray area that it is more difficult to decipher, I think.
Oh, shit. Although it is funny, though.
This is what you want. Who's your father?
I'll give you hardware. Although, I mean, taking it back to the colors, too. I mean, it was very... I mean, there was the way they did green in a lot of those early scenes. But even seeing the
anime now.
The anime now and the seeing those guys in armor coming out, it looked very, like, comic booky, or like it could have been an anime.
Like you guys remember this scene at the beginning?
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Oh shit, that's fucking the red. Yeah, that's another thing I like a lot.
The little Red Riding Hood.
Yeah,
I'm a huge mark for Little Red Riding Hood fucking themes and movies.
Yeah,
I don't
me
know.
too.
It's like that.
That was huge in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. That was that's the primary aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like movies that could be stage plays and any references to like Little Red Riding Hood. I like a lot.
You're a mark for him.
Yeah, like Goro. Did you ever see what was it? Freeway with
Kiefer Sutherland. Kiefer Sutherland. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Isn't that the Elfman movie?
Yeah.
Richard
Danny
Elfman?
did the. No, Danny
Was it
Elfman did.
Freeway?
Was
Yeah, and it had Reese Witherspoon in it.
Yeah, Danny Elfman did the music. I think.
Didn't Richard Elfman make it though?
I don't know if he did. I don't remember.
No,
Jenna
Matthew
Elfman.
Bright was the director of that.
I think then Richard Elfman also made a weird Little Red Riding Hood road movie. Let me look that up while you guys are talking about smart guy things.
Monocle.
Hey, I told you, man. Wolfie and I polished up our monocles for this episode.
I know.
Is that a fucking euphemism?
Whoa, hey now.
Goro told me to.
There you go.
Each other's monocle.
Yeah, thanks for giving us the rest of us a heads up.
I polished Goro's monocle. He polished mine.
Yeah.
Oh.
And stick it in your eye.
Yeah, extra cheese. That's nice. Oh,
So I did put I found a video. It's Jinro versus Illang comparing the two Wolf Brigades on YouTube, and it's like a 30-minute video that is it's right now showing bits of the anime. So these guys are able to sort of see how similar.
It's pretty great, even down to how the actors look too.
Yeah, like the guy who played Lim in
looks exactly like him.
Looks just like in this. His name is Fusei because he's Japanese, but. Yeah, and the armar is
casting.
exact.
Yeah.
Exact.
Yeah.
So one of the things, like the armor, when I was watching the anime, the armor looks badass.
It does.
But when you're watching the live action, there's just something that, like, to me, it just jumped off the fucking page.
Yeah.
Like, there was something about it that just looks so good. And when those eyes come out of the darkness, there's something so fucking cool about that, you know?
Well, it's the tangibility of it. It's the fact that we know that this is something that somebody is actually wearing.
Yeah.
That it contributes to that.
I mean, and we've seen glowing eyes, whether naturally or unnaturally glowing eyes coming out of the fog or out of the shadows or from the darkness, whatever.
Scooby-Doo.
And it gives off a really good look. You know, it jumps off the screen and it really grabs you like demons or something like that. But this was in a class completely by itself. I mean, you got that, you got the red eyes, which of course the red means for violence. Plus, you got that fucking body armor that is just completely.
Raven Shadow gets red eyes too now.
Yeah, well,
It's legal there.
it's legal now. I'm getting a card.
And then you got and then when you couple it up with the body armor that these guys are wearing, I mean, it's a look that's truly not only exciting to watch, but also completely terrifying.
It's iconic too.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Oh yeah. Well, and again, if you look at the basic design of the armor, it's drawing heavily upon the designs of the Nazis. I mean, the helmets are almost exact.
Yeah.
So it's trading in upon that kind of iconic fascistic imagery, and then it's layering on the elements. I mean, the red eyes, not only is it dehumanizing, but it also fits into the central allegory of Little Red Riding Hood. Oh, what big eyes you have!
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. So let's see. I literally could just keep going on about how gorgeous this movie is. Like the lighting, the innovative shots, like everything about the actual movie is just fucking like blew me away. I was just in awe for the entire runtime, and the design of the armor like is just so fucking cool. And I was actually surprised at how closely this resembled the anime, because when I see that they're remaking it for Korea, and especially the interesting thing is, instead of having it being like sort of an alternate 1950s Japan, they set it in the future and then had North and South Korea unite, which is like, that's kind of a crazy thing to think of now,
Which first kind of came to my mind. There's a whole lot of intro.
Yeah.
Move very fast.
Yeah.
Saying that again. But yeah, no, that was like, oh, let's fucking be kind of crazy.
Now, when did the anime come out?
1999, I believe.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
about 20 years.
All right. Because I was wondering about the mixture of technology that's in this movie, because you got Blackberries, then you got drones.
Yeah.
So I was wondering what time frame this was set in, and I was thinking it was more recent, in the present. But here we have guys working Blackberries, and those haven't been used in like over 10 years.
Well, and part of the thing you also have to take into account is the anime, as well as the rest of the original Kerberos saga. It was set in the 1950s. So that's why they look so much like Nazis. That's why they use old-style belt-fed machine guns, because they were evoking the time of the 1950s. It was an alternate period where, fascism took over. So what I think they were doing with the BlackBerry stuff and those kind of technology drops is we're kind of trying to evoke not only a futuristic setting, but also trying to make subtle nods towards a more past setting. Or maybe BlackBerry is popular in Korea. I don't know.
I think maybe they were trying to divert you, that technology took a side note at that point where the general public was their technology was limited, where the government moved it forward.
Yeah, I mean that certainly happens in times of war. There's uses in military technology, but the rest of the general populace kind of stays in one spot.
Right, because all the fund is obviously diverted to what's allegedly important, which is making things to blow up people.
Yeah, there you go.
The important thing is war.
Right. What it is it's good for?
Huh.
Absolutely nothing. Say it again.
Hey,
What?
war.
Huh? What it is it's good for?
I think you're missing the God of aspect of
Oh,
Good God.
oh, yeah, good God. Oh,
Hey,
yeah, there you go.
I'll have you
there.
know I regaled Chromecast Josh with the the comic book mythology of Ares and Dynamo, and he was very impressed. Which is good. I got to tell somebody because we'll never fucking.
Speaking
come
of
out.
Chromecast Josh, he's hanging out in the chat
Thank
room,
you.
Hey.
Josh, my man.
and he says Gruss von Krampus.
Yes.
And he
Oh, yeah,
says,
it's Krampus Day, ain't it?
yeah, he says,
Bruce.
anime typically doesn't translate to live action very well. It seems this might be an exception.
What's funny?
Go ahead.
Well, no, I was talking to someone Monday about Blade of the Immortal.
Yeah.
They asked if I, read the comic.
Which El Goro was on for too.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was.
And that conversation came up. Like, I really enjoyed that film, and it made me want to see read the actual manga. And then the conversation of Fist of the North Star came up, and while I seen the original anime, I also saw the HBO live action film.
I'm sorry.
Which
You
is
have
not-
my sympathies.
which is not good at all. So yeah, those different ends of the anime into film spectrum.
Yeah.
But this is pretty fucking close, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, because we saw this scene earlier in the anime, and now they're showing the live action version of it. And you can see, it's very similar.
That's fucking
Yeah.
crazy.
Though again, there are some key differences between the two, and a lot of that is wrapped up in the ending. And it's difficult to talk about my criticisms against Illang
Yeah.
without going into too terribly spoiler territory. I'll try my best. Let's just say Jinro has much more of a downer ending, and as such,
Yes.
it lands with much more of an impact. Because one of the key points of Jinro is that of the dehumanizing quality of fascism and the dehumanizing quality of this sort of organization. Illang ends up on a much more hopeful note. And in many ways, that's where I felt that the influences of trying to make something more palatable to a wider audience became more pronounced. And while if I try to think of Illang in isolation, separate from everything else, but considering how close it wants to be to Jinro, it's almost impossible.
Yeah, you have to.
I will say that you can kind of see it working within the context of the story that Kim Ji-won wrote. However, it did sort of feel like a letdown and sort of a shirking of the deeper point of the story. And that if my only criticism I could level against Illang is the fact that they decided to end the movie how they did, with especially in comparison to Jinro.
Yeah, and I think I do, because I've been thinking a lot about this, and once again, without giving spoilers away for people who haven't seen either one, I think I did prefer the ending for Jinro, but I also appreciated the ending of Illang based on the story they were telling. Like I feel like they didn't change it just for the sake of changing it. They added in an extra wrinkle and this isn't giving anything away because it happens in the very beginning, the big info dump they do at the beginning when they talk about the 15 teenage girls that got killed. Like that is something that's not in the anime, and it does have some bearing later on in the film. So I thought that even just adding that one little wrinkle, I think really made a difference. And so the story they were telling in Illang made sense. And it wasn't that they diverted from Jinro just to have a different ending or to make it maybe slightly more upbeat or something. But I feel that they planted all the seeds, and they were able to basically reap what they sowed. So I think that it made sense. I think I do still prefer the ending in Jinro, maybe a little bit better. And like Goro said, it definitely fits with the sort of the attitude and sort of this fascism and sort of where they're going with it. I think it sort of fits a little bit better. But I can appreciate both, and when this ended, I thought that it ended the way that this movie should have ended, even though maybe I would have preferred the other ending.
Yeah, the other issue. Well, and the other issue is the fact that it's engaging with a political theme that is still very much in the forefront of a lot of people living on the Korean Peninsula.
Yeah.
You know, the idea of reunification is something that's been, well, it's been a big thing
Yeah.
since the 1950s. So if you were to take tonally the way that Jinro went, you could definitely see it alienating a lot of people.
Yep.
And I for the with the change of context, you know, it necessitates a change in allegory, and I could certainly see why Kim Ji Woon decided to take the film the way he decided to take it. And to his credit, he built up to it in his storyline.
Yep.
I mean, I have a feeling that when he said about adapting this, he knew he wanted to go a different way, and he justified it with his story. The only problem is that I can't watch this film in isolation. It's going to be always informed with what had come before.
Yep.
And because it deviated so sharply with what came before, I can't help but feel a little unsettled by the change.
Yeah. And for me, I watched Jinro 2 hours before watching Illang, so the amount of time that I had to really sit with it and really let it sort of, like kick around in my brain was very minimal. So for me, I didn't have an emotional attachment to that ending because I didn't really have an opportunity to, So it was sort of an interesting way to watch it. If I had watched Jinro in 1999 and I saw this 20 years later, I probably would not have liked the ending, especially if I held that close to my heart,
Well, turning it to the guys who, hadn't seen Jinro, which is the majority of the people on here.
Yep.
What did they think about? What did you guys think about the ending? Did you
Yeah.
feel that it was justified? Did you feel that it worked in the context of the story?
So without giving away the ending,
Yeah.
did you guys like the ending? Did it feel weak?
It was fine.
It was fine.
I felt like the movie did lose a little bit of its bite, right? Like, because the quarter end reveal, I guess we'll call it, like, when that house of cards came tumbling down, and that was a cool thing. You ended up like losing something that would have made it more unique. Are you guys following me? Like, it's tough to talk about without talking
Yeah.
about it. Like,
Yeah, I get you. The we'll call it the secondary sewer revelation.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, like, then your character turns into that and, slaughters people he knew and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you almost, you tricked us, you dehumanized him again, and then you humanized him again, which I felt like was, like very, again, informed by American eyes. Like, it felt very American in that sense, but it's very wishy-washy, it felt like. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if I understood it. You know what I mean? Like, I understood it in the context of the story, but I don't know if I understood. It made me not understand the character anymore as much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly see what you're saying.
Well, I mean, without seeing
Because there was different revelations that you get throughout.
Yeah, without seeing the anime, I get the feeling that there's stuff that was unresolved. I don't know if it was resolved in the anime or not. Like, I don't know if it's
If you guys want to
a
know,
better ending.
in during the break, I'll tell you what the ending is if you want to know.
I mean, if nothing else, Lim essentially becomes the avatar of the optimism of North and South Korea.
Yeah.
The idea that, put all the political bullshit aside, that the people can eventually find a way to, overcome all of the struggles and
Yep.
all of the issues that have plagued that area for so long. Jinro is not nearly as optimistic about human nature.
And I totally will agree with that. And that's the cultural reference that we don't have, insight into, because I do think that there may be, obviously, maybe we can, maybe Tim from Korea would be a good person to talk to about this because he lived in South Korea for a long time, but, like, if I don't know if there is optimism, because it's like sitting next to a ticking time bomb for people in South Korea, I would imagine, so I would assume that they want them to come together, just so they don't have to, like, always sort of be looking over their shoulder, so to speak. So, I think that there maybe is sort of that hopefulness, and I think that definitely explains the ending in this one in comparison to, to the more nihilistic one, I suppose, in the anime. So we haven't. I know, like, there's been a lot of discussion, but we haven't heard from some people.
Well, I mean, it's tough to chime in when you guys keep on referring to the anime. It's
Yeah.
So it's our fault.
Yeah,
Okay.
you bastards.
Yeah, you
a little bit.
Secret fucking cartoon club.
I'll fucking call you out.
Secret cartoon.
If you
club.
keep on referring to the anime, we can't chime in.
Oh, Johnny, I want to watch a cartoon with you.
I chimed in.
So do I.
Yeah, Mars.
Well, you'll fucking chime in on shit you don't even fucking know.
That's not true. I know everything, sir. I'm like the.
What am I hearing?
Sounds like Goro's in a submarine.
He is.
Goro.
You playing Atari?
He's pissed that you made fun of me. Goro will stick up for me every time.
No, Goro's with me.
No. Me and Goro are the greatest tag team in the Rising Sun.
He's sick of carrying you. Is he even there?
I don't know.
Goro's a fucking.
I think Mars is the best. Shut up, Harris.
Maybe we did lose him. I don't know. Oh, he says we missed a call from him, so we must have.
Oh,
is
you
that
hung
what
up
we were
on
hearing?
him?
I didn't hang up on him.
Way to go, cartoon
You didn't see
buddy.
me touch the fucking iPad, did you?
I see you touching shit.
Yeah.
You were too busy staring at your phone.
Yeah.
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 Because I'm trying to remember the ending.
What?
I'm trying to remember
And
the
I'm-
ending.
There he is.
There he is.
Hey.
It's weird. It just crashed, and
Yeah.
then I tried calling you again, and it didn't work. Fuck Skype.
It's funny. You sounded like you were in a submarine. We were hearing like bleep 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 bleep.
I was trying to call you guys, so that's probably what you were hearing.
Oh, maybe that was it. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Goro.
Uh,
Aries was running
Yes.
our tag team amok while you're off. the phone.
And I appreciate the criticism, man. I know we're leaning very heavily on the anime side. So what are your thoughts on the film just as its standalone thing?
I felt the intro was a little long. And I felt it made me think, am I missing a movie? It felt like it was summing up a previous film with the amount of information they were giving.
Yeah. There's a lot because it has to set the tone of where you are in the world.
I mean, they were setting the tone of the world and also what was happening in general. Like, it was summing up two different things all at once. Yeah. Like, that intro was 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah. And then it kind of came back to the intro again. It kind of did some stuff, and then it kind of came back.
It did come back, yes. But it also, maybe this is my own personal opinion, I felt it was setting me up for a movie that I didn't quite get until the end.
Yeah, I think that's kind of accurate though.
I was all excited for this movie with these soldiers with the masks.
Okay.
And they actually even said that they didn't take the masks off. And then the next time you saw them with their masks off. And I'm like, the fuck is this? So instantly I'm disappointed.
Yep.
Because they said they don't take their masks. Oh, I'm paraphrasing. They don't take their masks off, and then you see them with their masks off.
There you go.
Yeah.
So I was disappointed, but yeah. Well, yeah, I'll sum up later. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I find that to be one of the interesting parts is that you're never supposed to take the mask is never supposed to come off.
But they did.
But they did, exactly. And that's what made it interesting because they're bucking the system. They're doing what they're not supposed to be doing.
No, because it wasn't like that wasn't an order that they weren't supposed to take their mask off. Because of what they did, it dehumanized them where they said they did not remove their masks.
Right, it made them all faceless monsters.
Yes, and then the next time you saw them, all with their masks off.
Which is why the ending, again, doesn't kind of work for me because, again, trying without actually revealing certain things. Yeah, it doesn't feel like they earned the humanity as much as they wanted to.
I'll give you that.
That's the way they set it up. And I readily agree that you look at this film in isolation, the info dump you get at the beginning, it's not quite 20 minutes, but it feels like it.
And then you wonder, like, if you're going to have that much information, maybe change your story a little bit, right? I mean, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, it's good to give us the kind of, elevator pitch or situation report, but how much is, and then fucking 10 years later, like how much?
Some of those points probably could have been buried into the movie
Right.
as subtle little things.
And I think the ending, like I know what you guys are saying, but I think because of who it was between, it didn't really matter. Like the masks didn't matter,
Like
aside from protection. But
how many words in Star Wars, right? Long
how
time
many
ago,
words? Oh, let me count them.
Galaxies far, far away.
Well, I
fucking-
was actually thinking about that. If you want to compare something that was kind of closer, consider how much world building Blade Runner did.
Yeah.
And the fact they just kind of dropped you into this world, yet you became comfortable with it. It unfolded in a way to present the world and present the rules of the world without requiring a narration necessarily, even though the original theatrical had that Harrison Ford narration, which is fucking terrible. But that's good world building in a cinematic context. Kim Ji-woon didn't quite go that direction, and I think the film kind of suffers for that.
And it also sort of, I mean, it's similar setup to the way they do it in the anime. So I'm sure when in doubt, look at what the anime did. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't have tried something different, but I think for the most part, that was similar to what they did in the anime.
the source material, so he's adapting.
And the thing is with the anime is that the anime basically was a loose adaptation of the first 2 chapters of the manga.
Yep.
But they also had the benefit of over a decade of this being a thing. So they kind of could assume that the audience knew what this world was,
Yep.
knew what the main beats of it were, and they could allude to certain things and, just kind of do a quick sum up to bring everybody else on page. By transferring it here and giving it to fresh audiences, it feels like they're dropping, and from what I'm hearing from you guys, they're dropping too much information all at you all at once, and it makes it difficult to follow.
Yeah, and I just lost what I was just going to say. I was looking at the chat room. But let me read the chat room real quick. And Pabst is hanging out now, and he says, Blade of the Immortal is one of the few anime or manga adaptations that's excellent. And Pabst wished happy birthday to Jesse G.
Oh,
FTM's hanging out.
birthday buddies.
Yeah, so we've got some people hanging out in the chat room now.
Brotherly love.
Yeah, exactly. Brotherly love. So I do want to start to wind this down a little bit because, we still got another flick to talk about. And I just want to see if there's anything else. I think. Yeah, this is just such like a little thing, but I loved in the live action in Illang, I loved the weight to the special unit suits. Like I feel like they did a really that's something you see sometimes in movies that they just sort of they don't really think about. But it looked like those suits were fucking heavy. The way they moved, I just like the attention that was paid to that. I know it's probably a silly little thing.
Well, you know what? I'll agree with you for 90% of it, but there was certain times
Towards
where
the
I felt
end.
they moved far too quickly and
Yep.
Yeah,
Too agile.
agile. That's the correct word.
And there is one scene in this that just there's a lot of really good scenes, but the scene, all I'll say is Wolf Brigade. Like that, there's a reveal that was just fucking awesome. It's like one of those scenes where you kind of get chills, and the reveal and the way they did it in this, I thought was really fucking awesome. And I just think that there's you have these iconic suits with the eyes and everything just looks so cool. And there was, I like the portrayal of Lim in this, and I thought that it's a tough role to play, but I think that I don't have his name in front of me, but the actor Gang Dong-won, I think he did a very admirable job. Rage, I see you fucking chuckling.
Laughing at.
I don't know.
You don't know.
Dong-won.
It's funny.
Gang Dong
That-
Won.
Yeah, what's the fuck's wrong with
I was
that?
thinking about Gangrel.
No, you did. Yeah,
You don't think a fucking
yeah.
And then I thought
You chuckle when I said Dong
You
Won.
know, Dong Wong DeMarco is very funny.
You
to
are
me.
so fucking.
That would be that's my porn name.
you are so goddamn childish.
I'm fucking Optimus fucking Primal. I'm Dong Wong DeMarco, baby. Come on.
Dong Won DeMarco.
That's your new vampire name, man.
Fuck Al Cool. There's a new boy in town.
Put that in my
There's a
intro.
new Casanova in town.
There's a new boy in town, and he's looking
Sucking
good.
blood.
All right. Is there anything that Anything else you guys want to mention before we head to the verdict? I know we talked about a lot of stuff, but no? All right, let's head to the verdict then.
Trick or treat, baby.
I wonder if people would say you're a trick or a treat.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.
All right, it is verdict time. We're going to let you know whether Illang, the Wolf Brigade, was a trick or a treat. Any final thoughts we may have? Let's kick it over to Raven Shadow.
Yo.
Also,
too, maybe don't watch this late at night. It's a lot.
It's a fucking South Korean movie. You should know by now.
Well, I don't fucking know.
Define
Yeah,
late at night.
What time is it in
2 a.m.
No, but closer. I felt like I started at fucking 6 o'clock at night. I ended up stopping watching it at 4 o'clock. It's fucking long. It's a long fucking 2 hours.
Continue.
No.
You're reviewing the time.
Yeah, shit. Fucking time zone. If I could have flew to Korea. No, it's a fine film. Yeah, you know what I mean? It ain't the fucking night comes for us.
It ain't the Red Cross, and it ain't no nurse.
No, it's good. Yeah, a lot of content. A lot of content in there. You know, I don't know, man. It was fun. Treat.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I thought that was going to bounce.
How you don't have your own newspaper column beats the hell out of me.
It's me fucking too. But no, I mean, you don't get it. There's plenty of monocles to be fucking had.
It's like
so
pulling teeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? Yeah, not fats and iron mongers.
Wait a minute. You're saying why he doesn't have his own fucking newspaper column? You should have one too. We'd only have to wait a fucking bicentennial to get the fucking episode 2.
Thank you.
Who was that aimed at?
Him.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Fucking Dr. Prolific Zero over here. Guy does a movie, an article, and some other thing every 7 years.
No, I fully enjoyed the colors.
He comes like the Olympics.
Like more like Haley's Comet. No, I enjoyed the
More
color.
like Haley's waitress.
Yeah, the color palette, the fact that it made me, it invokes something in me that even though I didn't know the source material, it made me feel like it was capturing something.
All right.
You know what I mean? Which is good. Made me feel some things. Could have made me feel a little bit shorter. But overall, yeah, you know, Asians running amok. Treat.
Wow.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know.
Jesus.
Asians running amok.
Okay. That was fucking stupid.
I think getting a review out of you is longer than this movie.
Well, fair.
All right,
No,
Aries.
I enjoyed it.
Like I said, this movie, it set me up to something I was expecting and didn't quite get till the end. But some of the action that happened up until I was waiting for that was good. I know Mars didn't like it. He thought it was too Americanized, but I thought it was fine. Some of it did suspend my suspension of disbelief a little bit, but I can get beyond that. All in all, this movie definitely was a treat.
It was over 90 minutes, and it had subtitles. So
It did have
had
subtitles.
that working against you.
Piss me the fuck off. Because you know what? I started to watch this on my little fucking
Oh, in your
tablet here. And
tablet.
went, I can't fucking read that.
Yeah.
I gotta wait for the fucking TV. So, but beyond that, no, it was good.
All right, MZ.
Yeah, this is very well done. From a production standpoint, which I always look forward to talking about, you know, it's wonderfully shot. And I'll echo on what you said, Raven Shadow. Believe it or not, on the color palette.
You're welcome.
I think the colors.
Well, actually, Goro said that earlier.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
All right,
still
all right,
thinking
all
it.
right, then Gore. I'll give credit to Gore and to Goro and Raven
He's
Shadow.
just
Fuck you.
Gore now.
Yeah. What's up, Ro?
I'll take it. We've known each other for a while.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I think about calling you Guillermo El Goro.
Guillermo El Goro, I like it.
Guillermo El Goro. That's awesome.
Benicio El Gore. That's good.
And I thought the camera work in this movie was really, really great, especially when you consider the confined, closed spaces that they had to work under in the sewer system. And there were some shots in that sewer system that looked really, really large. And you just got to give credit to the cinematographer for that. I mean, he just did an excellent job. I don't know who it was, but kudos to you, pal. And as well as some
kudos to you, pal.
as well as some outside shots. The
Somebody's
there
so
was
pro.
there was a couple shots from the in the what do you call it, the parking lot, where the I don't even know their names, but
The fuck
because
are you
everyone
talking
just
about?
came flying out of nowhere. You know, the head bad guy versus the head good guy.
You
and
know, the Asian
Lim,
guy.
Lim versus the other guy, and just the camera work on that alone was really, really well done, and the acting was quite good. This movie is long, you know, and I don't know if this movie, I would say,
is it Long
some-
Duck Wan?
Wow.
Jesus.
I don't know.
Christ,
I don't know if
Jared.
I didn't say that.
I don't know.
You were
if this,
thinking it.
No, and I am now.
I don't know. I don't know if this movie would benefit from having it trimmed by, say, 10, 12 minutes. But I liked what I saw. I mean, it's a hard movie to follow for me anyway. But what I did see, I did enjoy. And although it is not a perfect film, it is a flawed film, but I did, however, enjoy it. This is a treat.
Marsman.
Monster Zero totally said my review verbatim.
All right.
Especially the part about the fucking flying out of nowhere. No, I was thinking about this and the best way to quantify it, and maybe this won't work or go a long way around, but everyone knows I love They Might Be Giants, right? They have an album called...
Never heard of them.
They have an album called Gleam that is like lesser They Might Be Giants to me. But it's better or as good than any pop record that came out that year. Another year, this would be in my top 5 with a bullet, despite my kind of, this not being one of this guy's best films, in my opinion. But this is a tough year. That said, as an island, this is definitely a treat.
All right, let's go to Goro.
All right, so I obviously have some problems with it, and it's problems that come strictly out of my knowledge of the source material. But looking at it in isolation, the film does still have a couple flaws on it. There's a tremendously huge info dump. There's a barrage of information that I think could have been more elegantly handled. And there is sort of a contrast of theme that can sort of undermine some of the deeper points that perhaps they were trying to go for, or at least subvert those points into a more audience-friendly sort of package. Put that aside, it's still a beautiful film, and Kim Ji-woon's direction, outside of those clumsy bits in the beginning, is top-notch. It may not stand up compared to his other work. It certainly doesn't stand up, in my opinion, compared to what had become before, but it is still an excellent film and one worth your time seeking out. So definitely a treat for me.
All right, and for me, this is definitely a treat. This is a big-time treat, actually. And to me, like, Kim Ji-woon is just, I may not have liked this as much as some of his previous work, but I think that he shows here that he is definitely a master filmmaker. Like, behind the camera, he is a master of his craft, and there's not that are that can equal what he does. Like, so I won't say I like this as much of Age of Shadows, but I did like a lot of the subject material, a lot of the material that's based off of, like, I'm glad I did see the anime. What I was going to say earlier is I almost wish I was more invested in the live action. So in a way, I wish I had watched the live action first, just so I could have been surprised by things that happened, because there were a lot of similarities. So I think I wish that I'd seen it in reverse, but that's just my preference for, I do like anime, but not as much as I would, like live action, I guess. So, but this film is flawless visually. It is just so fucking gorgeous. And I did enjoy what he did adapting the story, and I felt the changes that he made were for the better of his film. So, and like I said, I didn't have an affinity for the source material since I had just watched Jinro a couple hours before seeing this, but I can absolutely see how someone would hold that source material sacred because, because of the changes that he made, they may not agree with them. I felt all the differences fit the story being told, and nothing was superfluous, even though it was, 2 hours and 20 minutes. That's sort of a South Korean thing that we are pretty used to, I think, at this point. And I do think that this might be the most beautiful film this year that we've seen. We've seen a lot of great films. I'm not going to say it's the best film that we've seen this year, but it might be the most beautiful. And for me, Kim Ji-woon just is he's one of my favorite working filmmakers right now, I will say. He's not dead. He's not John Carpenter. He's one of my favorite working filmmakers. Turn your mic on.
That literally bothered me all week. Like,
All week.
To this day,
kept
I'm
thinking
still
about
not
it?
positive what he was fucking talking about.
So, treat for me. So, all the way around, we got treats. So, there you go. I mean, varying degrees. But if you're a fan of the source material of Jinro or even of the Kerberos saga, I'd be curious to see what you think. So, take a look at Illang, and in the future episodes, feel free to send us feedback if you'd like. I would like to hear from you. So I guess I'll talk about what we're doing next week now before we head to a break. We typically do it, so I'll go ahead and reveal what we're doing next week. So we put out the call. We got another guest that's going to be joining us next week.
Jake?
No, he didn't actually reply. I invited all the Hossmen, and he didn't say anything. So
Well, Coop doesn't like
you got big time by Jake.
Yeah, he did. So next week, we actually mentioned him earlier. We're going to be joined by Tim from Canada.
Nice.
No longer Korea.
Who's that dude?
Tim from Korea is now in Canada.
Well, that doesn't make any sense. Rebranded?
Yeah, the Canadian Tim from Korea.
It's a
How's
later
that?
season.
So he's no longer in the future.
Yeah, he
true.
actually
He's in present time now.
Present time, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but is all of Canada where we at?
No, not all, but he is.
It's like that weird Battlestar Galactica 80.
Oh, yeah, that was weird.
So or some circles you might know him as Ghetto Tim, but Tim will be joining us next week, and I gave him a selection of films to choose, and he chose Upgrade and Mom and Dad. So we're going to be doing Upgrade, which was a theatrical release that just hit VOD about a month or two ago, and Mom and Dad, another film starring Nicolas Cage that Mars has been dying to see
God
all
damn it, I
year.
forgot about that.
Yes,
Do they
Mars.
save the world, or
Yes.
I wish.
Yes, Mars, you got your hand up. What?
I already saw and reviewed Upgrade on the show. Can I stay home?
Sure. Yeah,
Oh,
go
nice.
for it.
Perfect.
Yes.
Cool.
You don't want to talk to Tim?
No.
No?
I talk to him all the time.
Wow.
Talk on the phone.
No, you don't.
We make sweet love.
On the telephone?
What boy be talking about on the telephone?
No, I won't.
All right.
But I did. I recalled earlier today that I did review Upgrade on the show. So
Skip, go ahead.
Spoiler alert. Maybe I
break
hate
the
it
streak?
Yeah, break the streak. Go for it.
Can't break the streak.
There you go.
He's compelled.
Sucks.
All right, so now that we've revealed what we're doing next week, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and talk about Cam. So, MZ, how long until we're back?
We'll be back in 2 and 2.
The following message is a paid advertisement for the Cult of Muscle podcast. The Cult of Muscle. You're either in it or you're dead.
It's the dawning of a new age. The halls of Valhalla have been shuttered. The heroes of yore have either retreated to the shadows or taken to capering for the amusement of the small folk. Their past glory is a distant memory. The barbells have been torn from their once puma-strong grips. The beards shorn from their square jaws, only to be transplanted onto flannel-clad, puny weaklings with fingers barely powerful enough to strum a ukulele. The time has come, my brothers, to restore order from the chaos. No longer will our heroes be forgotten. No longer will their great deeds be viewed through a foggy lens of irony. Hear now our rallying cry as we scream it from the mountaintops, as we bellow it from iTunes and Libsyn and Facebook. It's time to join the cult, my brothers. So don your cloaks and enter the Cult of Muscle.
I'm Alex West.
And I'm Andrea Subasati, and we're from the Faculty of Horror podcast.
And you're listening to Trick or Treat Radio. Oh, delicious nerds. Ms. M knows you like to chat it up with other sexy shut-ins about comics, movies, video games, and your favorite TV shows. If that sounds like you, cuddle up to the Trick or Treat Radio Facebook group, or the FIB. That stands for Fan Interaction Board. Just go to Facebook and search for Trick or Treat Radio and have more fun than a Jedi at a lightsaber sale. Not enough? Watch us on YouTube, The Deadites TV, all one word. Last but not least, check out the world's most dangerous talk radio show, Trick or Treat Radio, at trickortreatradio.com.
We're back. Trick or Treat Radio. I forgot to tell you the guys. I forgot to tell you the ending of the animator in the break. Oh, oops. Oh well.
Oh well. We'll live.
Fucker.
I just saw some relatively sad news that Debbie Rochon, who we had on the show, was that episode 300? I think. Was that
so.
long ago? Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. And anyways, I guess she had a tumor removed 11 years ago, but it looks like it has grown back, and she has to go through chemotherapy to shrink it down. It's a non-malignant brain tumor, but still, it's still not fun. So our best wishes go out to Debbie Rochon, and hopefully everything goes well with that. So
that's gotta really, especially now during the holidays, man. That's gotta really. Man, I just hope she's okay.
Yeah, let's hope so. She was a lot of fun to have on, and be awesome to get her back on eventually. So
really makes me sad.
Yeah. So all right, well, we don't want to dwell too much on sad things that we can't control.
Yes.
I'll tell you what's a sad thing that I can't control. I think Tiny White and my sister are fucking warlocks. Like, how do they fucking look like that? Like, you're younger than us, so it's okay that you still look young. But these two
look
assholes.
Look at him. He's older than all of us.
Yeah,
and he looks younger.
Looks like a young ape.
Yeah, but he doesn't look his age at all.
No, but it doesn't look young like those two.
I don't act my age
looks.
at all.
I think
either.
he looks younger.
I don't act my age at all.
No, you don't. You definitely don't.
I definitely don't.
I'll have you remember on this show, this dude had a heart attack from laughing at his own joke.
Yeah, but it doesn't have anything to do with his age.
He blacked out. He didn't have a heart attack.
Oh, come on. Don't make it sound worse than what it really was.
Maybe you're a warlock too, but like
I'll have you know, I looked exactly the same as I did in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's
big,
shorter
big,
beard,
fat ass gray beard.
There's no gray in my beard.
No.
No.
It's all white at this point.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
That's all mood lighting.
Yeah. Well, maybe
Aries Gandalf of gray.
Oh, well, don't use your Gandalf powers to make me look like a troll.
You know what?
I'm getting more and more gray in my beard every day, and I embrace it.
I passed by an ex-girlfriend over the weekend, and she didn't even fucking recognize me.
Well, it's a tombstone.
That's probably for
to
the
be
best,
fair.
right?
No.
Oh shit!
Don't get up.
Motherfucker! It hurt.
What do you expect? 95% of your face is covered with hair.
I had a fucking beard in high school, motherfucker.
To be fair, you do look a little like Teen Wolf.
But it wasn't like
that. All you motherfuckers outside
right
now.
Give me a keg of beer.
I I am fighting all of you right now.
Goro, get on a plane.
Yeah. You know what the best part was?
When he slam dunked the ball.
Aries was at one end of the hallway, and his ex-girlfriend was at the other, and Aries yelled, "You will not pass."
To be fair, I've been in the van when Aries has ridden on top of the
Ooh,
van.
did he lure you in with? Did he lure you in with candy?
No, I was too scared because I was very young. But no, Aries used to climb on cars.
I can't argue that point.
I remember we were in like a small car once, and you actually got. I think you would. Were you driving?
No, I wasn't driving. Okay. I was thrown from the vehicle.
Okay.
I was thrown from the vehicle. That shit hurt.
And sent to Wolfie.
There's Aries.
What?
That's you.
Come on! At least
The
use
dad
Michael
and Teen
J.
Wolf.
At least use Michael J. Come on! I used to like you.
I guess you got something new for the intro.
And father of Teen Wolf, Aries, God of War.
Screw you guys, I'm going home.
So your girlfriend didn't recognize
Styles
you?
is best friend.
So your ex-girlfriend didn't recognize you when you went by?
No, she walked right by me.
Was it the ex that we know?
No, I don't think. I don't think anyone. Maybe Raven Shadow knows.
Oh,
her.
okay.
We're talking high school girlfriend.
Well,
I know. Is it?
I gotta say, man, that is
JP.
a positive as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
Because there's nothing more awkward than running into an ex.
So if you recognize her, did she look exactly the same?
She looks fairly much the same. I've seen her like this isn't like the first run-in since high school. Like,
are you stalking her?
No. She happened to be where I was. I recognize
In her backyard.
Yeah, in her.
You see, Aries, this is what happens when you make fun of my BlackBerry tea.
No. This is what happens when I talk.
Yeah.
You motherfuckers wonder why I stay quiet. Exactly this.
I mean, it was the strangest thing. Who knew I would run into her in her walk-in closet?
Yeah.
So how about that cam?
Wear those shoes.
Yeah.
Or did you see her on webcam?
Yeah.
No, good segue.
I know I would have.
She walked right by me, almost touched me, and then I had a conversation with her husband.
Do you know her husband? Or
Yes,
you just,
I was friends with her husband too.
I thought
So he recognized
Well,
you.
this was
He recognized me.
That's a
yes.
strange relationship.
Jesus Christ.
Is it a weird? Like, I have an honest question. You're a group
Turn
of
this
my
away from me. I'm
peers.
tired of looking.
I know the answer with Raven Shadow for the most part, right? But is it weird that I am friends with all of my exes except one, like very good friends? Like,
No,
because
I am.
It's admirable. I will say it's admirable. It's something
Because
that
I thought I was
could not do.
because I suspect I was a shitty boyfriend. So
Well, yes, but they just come to expect that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
well, see you later.
Did we lose him?
Oh shit! They said we had 2 calls going. I ended one, and apparently ended both
What was the other one?
with Goro. Because the other one never ended.
Oh.
Mute that.
Oh, man.
Once again, fuck Skype.
Actually, that was me, Goro, because it said that we had.
God damn it!
It said we had 2 calls going, so I tried to end the other one, and it just hung up on you. So
All you missed was Aries saying I was a shitty boyfriend.
Yeah, there's a fucking Japanese hornet online too.
Japanese hornet. Oh no! Yeah, I should have kept
Knock
that.
it off.
There was the Goro, and then the other Goro,
Right.
which segues into
Oh,
this
okay.
movie, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you.
Aries is just mad because he dated a girl that liked me better.
Wow.
All right, so we're going to talk about Cam. This film from 2018 is rated TVMA, and it is 94 minutes. Horror,
Wow.
mystery, thriller.
Yo, I ain't fucking TBMA, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, it is.
No.
Oh, you think it's rated R?
Yeah, that was like.
Well, this is a different. They don't go through the MPAA.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll tell you right now. If
You were
have
disappointed.
If you have a channel that rhymes with Minimax, their TV MA is.
Why can't you say Cinemax?
Oh, Cinemax. I was having fun with you.
It's
But,
not a dirty word, you know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no. But
Well,
I
to
mean,
that point, when this movie fired up and I saw the Blumhouse logo, I was like, man, I wonder why they're going straight to Netflix with this. Then I watched the movie. It's like, oh,
Yep.
that's why.
That explains it.
Yippers.
All right, so it was produced by Blumhouse, and it is directed by Daniel Goldhaber, and it is written by Daniel Goldhaber and Issa Mazay. And apparently Issa, if I'm not mistaken, is...
The Issa Bunny.
Wow. Really? That's where you go with that?
Low-hanging fruit.
Really? Come on.
Low-hanging fucking Rufus and Ronaldo.
Low-hanging carrot.
That was funny.
Thank you, Monster Zero. Thank you.
Hey.
So apparently she... Oh my God! Look at these two fucking.
Maybe they'll both pass out.
Did you guys really honestly just high five?
Yeah.
Why, you jealous? You
Yeah.
didn't get in on it? Come on, we'll do it again.
Come on,
You-
ready?
come
Go on, join the group. Come on.
on. Teen Wolf.
Okay.
So yeah, so Issa is apparently a former sex worker. Like this is sort of what she did. She was,
Yeah, she used to be a cam model, and she actually used to work with Daniel Goldhaber. Apparently, he would help her add a cinematic quality to her shows.
Yes.
And lots of tokens.
There you go. Lots of tokens.
At least you could have
Lots
done
of
is said S of the Wicked Warden at SS.
Oh, okay. Well, that's what comes to mind.
So
So the actress was a former.
no, not the
right-
lead, the writer.
The writer.
But
The writer.
she was also in this. She played
The bad guy,
Store
right?
clerk.
store clerk.
Oh.
So
She was good.
So she just had a bit part in it, but so yeah, so it was written by those two, and it stars Madeline Brewer, Patch Dara, Melora Walters, Devin Druid, Imani Hakim, and Michael Dempsey. And
Melora Walters. Cabin Boy's Melora Walters.
Cabin Boy.
Was she
really?
the mom?
Oh
right?
yeah,
Holy
that is
shit! That was the mom.
fucking
Yeah,
Cabin
yeah.
Boy.
But she
Those
was in.
pipes are clean.
But she was in a lot of
yeah.
stuff though. What else do we know her from?
That's amazing. I didn't even.
Boogie Nights,
Nights,
Butterfly
yeah. Boogie Nights,
Effect,
yeah.
Magnolia. Looks like she's done a lot of work with Anderson,
Dead Poet Society.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
or at least two.
Oh, she wasn't Dead Poet Society. That's right.
Holy shit!
Interesting.
I totally didn't recognize her.
I didn't either. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's funny. And she was the mom in this movie, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So the synopsis: Alice, an ambitious cam girl, wakes up one day to discover she's been replaced on her show with an exact replica of herself. So yeah, so this has been getting some buzz. It's popped up onto Netflix.
This movie
Obviously
really speaks to
Blumhouse.
my sensibilities.
Yeah, I'm sure you're very familiar with what
Cam
goes
girls?
on. Yeah.
I am.
All right.
Please
So MZ's
explain
gonna.
to us how this works.
was it accurate?
For the most part, yeah. Yeah.
How
I would
much-
say
how-
so.
How much do the tokens translate into like real money?
Well, that part of it, that I don't know if it's on certain sites that have web girls or cam girls, whatever you want to call them. Some of them have it. The ones that I visited did not.
Because I'm too cheap to pay for tokens.
No, what they would have you do, what would happen is that you would go onto one of these sites and you would have, it was basically a menu of these girls, and it would
was a
be just like
buffet?
in the movie. It would be just like in the movie. Yeah, a virtual booby buffet, and
Jesus
and
Christ.
and
Holy shit.
and what would happen is, they would be on camera. They'd say online, offline. You see online, okay. You go to one of them, and you just watch them,
MZ
and they
picks
would
the
just
ones offline.
and they would just be, just be typing stuff, and other people would be typing stuff back to her and stuff like that, and she would just chat with everybody until someone decides to get a private chat with her.
Okay.
And then when that happens, then she's gone. Of course, I never paid for that kind of stuff. I just watch her,
Watch your type.
Oh God! Look at that! Oh God! Look at that finger.
Oh my God! The ampersand. Oh.
She's using the hunting pack. Oh my God!
Control Alt Delete me.
Wolfie, just think of how many times you're sitting here typing and he's watching you.
Oh.
Yeah.
The block.
Yeah, I watch the show a lot when I
Do you
get
like
home,
my
John.
stroke?
Oh,
I
yeah.
do know a couple of ladies who have done this. So the culture seemed pretty accurate. My only experience with it is, and I never looked at it, but my
no one does.
my roommates were very into
You just
it.
go to other, like redheaded babysitters.
Oh, Voyadome.
Yeah. My apartment was very into a thing called Voyadome, but I never really looked at it.
Oh, it was fucking
I
weird.
never called out of work. I never.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we
those-
won't name names, but
Those girls needed me.
not you. You mean the person you live
Well,
with?
I might have called out of work too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I don't. And by the way, while we're speaking of that particular redhead in question, I find her really irresponsible because when she's with those African American men, who's watching those kids?
Seriously.
Yeah, really irresponsible.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah, moving on. But I will, to pick up on what Mars was saying, I also have no experience with this sort of world, but the way it was presented, I mean, there was just such a sort of, I'm going to dust off the old monocle term, a verisimilitude. It felt very believable, and I do enjoy films that provide this kind of insight into a subculture. And that's very much what it is. It's a subculture of the people consuming this, but most importantly, the focus was presented solely upon the subculture of the women that are working in this environment.
Yeah.
And to the credit of the film, even if I didn't know that the writer Issa Mazet had experience in this sort of world, you could just glean it from the way that the movie was presented. That it just it presents this very realistic and what I could only assume is a true to life portrayal of a work. This is an employment for so many women out there.
No, that's true. But the only thing that I would say that is a bit embellished would be.
Well, it is a film too, so.
Well, no, I understand.
I'm
that.
sure they did.
But the character of Alice/Lola, her workspace is very, it's very done up. There's a lot of color. There's a lot of light.
Well, it seemed. I mean, based on what they in the movie, they were trying to one up each other.
Right.
Like there was this.
Right.
It was almost sort of like I mean, and this applies to different occupations as well. You want to be the best at what you do, whether
I understand
you're a
that.
rock star, you're a wrestler, you're a podcaster, whatever the fuck.
I understand that, but what I mean is that, from me visiting these sort of sites,
Well, you did do the bottom of the barrel free ones.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
So I'm sure that has something to do with it.
But consider the rest of her house and the fact that how dedicated she is towards climbing these ranks.
Yeah, because the rest of her house looks like a shithole.
Well, she just moved into it.
She
That's why everything was in boxes. But also, most of what was in that room you could find at a dollar store.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it really did feel that she was investing the money she was getting into this back into the show.
I'd say bare minimum money into it.
Yeah, because you could tell, because there was one scene in there where you she's shopping at a dollar store because she's got one of those carriages.
She was
that's
at
got
a
those
dollar
big,
store, yeah.
She was
got
a
the
dollar
big
store.
pole sticking out of it. So
And it's a dollar store
that's
outside.
classic dollar store shit.
Yeah.
But what I'm trying to say is that this is where it veers off a little bit from reality in the fact that her room looks the way it does, because like as I was saying, all the cam girls that I've seen, and to be perfectly honest, it's kind of spooky and maybe and probably sad too, is that from what I've seen, the girls are usually either on their bed or on a mattress that's on the floor.
How do you know it's their bed?
What difference does it make?
Well, and there's also later on in the
set,
movie there is a house where they work.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that a lot of them, if not all of them, don't look anything like this. Usually it's on a bed with like nothing but a bare wall behind them, and it almost makes me think that, I don't know if it's done by choice or maybe they're done against their will. because of the way the conditions look behind them.
Well, out of curiosity.
Yeah, what country?
And I always felt that way when I
think it
saw
depends
that.
on what country.
But
I think that is
this young lady
A
is
Serbian
also
cam.
shooting for number one.
Right.
Exactly.
There is nothing beyond. Everything has to be perfect with her. She lit candles for one of her scenes.
Well, it's funny too. That point, I think that's the kind of things you want to. Even if you're podcasting, you can podcast.
Well, that's the thing. I was just gonna say, like, a lot of the YouTube shows I watch, like not Lapsed Fan. I can't remember what it is. I mean, like, look at Angry Video Game Nerd, or you know what I mean. Like, that's not. That guy probably doesn't film in his living room.
Sometimes it's more about content than it is about. But
I mean,
in terms of this, if you want to get to number one and you want to get the viewers' money, in this case, you have to present something better than everyone else. So.
I mean, though I found this very believable because, like I said, I watch a lot of podcasts where you can tell it's we're not particularly done up, but like.
We have a studio.
We have a studio, yeah.
There are assholes that will comb their hair for a podcast.
Right.
Well, the motherfucker that will get stung by bees.
Yeah.
But if I can, one point I want to make though, in terms of her setup, especially down to what I noticed, she had the star mirror, like the mirror with the light bulbs on it, like you do. I mean, backstage at like a so I think
like a vanity.
Yeah, I think a lot of that is her. Is she's on stage. She's having this. This is her theater. So she's getting into the zone. Well, I think so. One thing I think is missing though is probably the drug use to get jacked up to be able to do this for hours and on time.
Well, you can't necessarily assume that everybody's going to get behind drug use of it, at least in that sort of sense, because one of the big things this plays with is the addictive quality of fame.
Right.
That one of the major reasons that she's pursuing this is not just the monetary rewards, but also just the high she's getting from and validation from these people. Yeah. And that was something that I came across an interview that Gold Harbor and Mazzei did with Playboy, and it was very telling onto that. And they were talking about that sort of receipt that you get of the adulation of doing this kind of work. And how also that can create this sort of split within you, because in order to continue to get that sort of acclaim, you have to necessarily put on a persona. You have to become something that the audience wants to invest within. And if you do it long enough, you can lose sense of yourself. To put it into a wrestling term, it's like when somebody starts living their gimmick and then trying to wonder, who am I now?
Yeah, and that was the part that really resonated with me, despite this being a world that I don't know anything about, and obviously would never be, like, I'm not going to be a cam boy. I don't know if there is such a thing.
You'd be really good at it, John.
There is, and there's a lot of money in it.
Yeah, you get the big legs now.
Are there horny dudes that like dudes? There's cam boys. Come on.
Yeah.
Are there horny Japanese hornets?
Yeah. You can lift weights while you're eating your fucking tofu.
If there's an audience for it, fuck yeah, I'll do it.
I don't eat tofu. Oh, I'm sorry.
I find
the computer gonna pay for itself.
I seldom disagree with Al Goro, but I find his commentary on people getting lost in their characters and the pursuit of fame very unrealistic.
Well, no, it's not entirely untrue, because people look. I mean. It's not, the general idea is the same.
There is no.
But when I worked, but when I'm working the cons, working with the celebrities at the cons.
Look at you.
And I was talking to David Hess.
You're
about
actually
this
likable then.
Yeah, right. People actually like me. They don't just know me that well. And it's a case of people. They know your personality, but they don't know the person. Right. And that could be very dangerous, and it gets into a very slippery slope if you're not careful.
Well, and in this case, I mean, her customers are never going to see the person unless they do what one of them did, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I mean, this is a very simple plot. Like, we don't need to discuss specifics about it, but we have Alice, who her persona is Lola, and she's a cam girl, and she's trying to do these different things to try to get higher up the ranks. So she wants to be number one, And at one point, she gets like, what is she? She like, it was actually kind of cool. Like I like that scene in the beginning where she slits her throat. Like, fake.
Oh god, what a way to open a movie.
Yeah,
Right?
like I thought that was a great opening, and I was like, holy shit! Like, so it's like, and she set it up with one of her fans or whatever to come in and really escalate things, and I thought that was interesting, and it got her higher. She's basically trying to do anything, and it's all about this leaderboard.
It's a work.
And it's very prevalent, I think, in today's society, especially with how popular streaming is. Whether it's, I don't know much about this world, but I know about like YouTube streamers and then Twitch streamers, and always
any sort of social media platform.
Even just
people
Facebook
become
or
like
Twitter.
Yeah,
there's an entire industry of people that even has a name. It's social media influencers.
Oh yeah,
and it's the same thing. I don't know if you guys saw the film Ingrid Goes West that was released last year, but it's still dealing with that kind of world and the inherent artificiality of it, and how people can get lost within that.
I think it's 5-0 Goes West.
Yes.
Well, no, it's a different film. Different film.
Oh, I'm
Very
sorry. My
different
bad.
films.
My bad.
I saw that one.
But I do agree, and I think that a lot of us, despite this being a world that a lot of us don't know much about or don't frequent or whatever, I do think that we can relate to her plight.
Right.
Especially, I mean, with the podcast or with the music or with films that we've been in and things like that. You always want to be on top. You want to be higher. And like some people will go to great lengths to do whatever they have to get there. Now, some people have, scruples or morals or whatever you want to.
Fuck them.
What are those?
And some people might not go to any lengths, but she did sort of have her code in a way. Like what'd she say? She wouldn't get nude on screen.
She would never.
Well,
say,
no,
I
it
love
was
you.
never say I love you.
Yep.
Never fake her orgasms, and
I love that part the best.
I forget the third.
It was something about getting completely nude or something like that.
No. It wasn't that. She had no problem. She had no problems with nudity.
Okay.
I'm trying to fucking remember.
Yeah.
Anyway, she had. Oh no, she wouldn't do anything in public.
Right.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Which is what sets up the interesting thing with the supernatural elements that pop into this, because what we see is it's basically undermining all of the code that she's holding herself to, the standards.
Right.
That she had set herself up, that she was going to climb to the top, but she was going to still adhere to these certain things. And I love the way that when you become that the film doesn't necessarily hold your hand through those parts. And sometimes when you're not if you're not paying attention, you won't notice the betrayals of those. And it feels very true to life, because so many times when people are pursuing something, they can go into it with the best of intentions, and then without them even knowing it, can violate those core principles. And that's something that you can find with anybody who pursues any sort of power, any sort of acclaim.
Mm-hmm.
They can go into it thinking, I'm going to be true to myself. I have these standards. And then they'll let it slide just a little, and they'll let it slide just a little, until all of a sudden, literally, as we saw in this film, they can look in the mirror and not recognize who's looking back.
Yeah. And I thought that there was a lot of, there was something very poignant about what was going on. So I will say the first half of this movie, it was sort of happening, and I wasn't really grasping onto it, like in terms of like, oh man, this is super interesting, or
I was
or
grasping
really
onto it.
Of course, well, yeah, you were grasping on something else, buddy.
I knew that was going to come eventually.
So, but for me, it was. What are you doing, Rafe? Are you shaking your bottle?
No, I was simulating Monsters Inc.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Stay away from the chair.
Slow down, Goro.
So, so I wasn't really, the first half of this movie, I was like, okay, like I see what they're doing here. But when sort of that midway point happens and things start to get a little bit different, I did appreciate that they set up this world and set up the rules of it, so to speak, despite it not being super interesting to me, because it really set up that second half of like, well, here's what's going on. This is what this world is all about. Here's the rules of it. And then something happens to change that. And that kind of puts a twist on it and makes you appreciate the information that you got prior, because it really just kind of sets it up. So I thought in terms of that, I thought it did a fairly good job, despite me not like being super into like the first half of it, I guess,
Well, and to me, the first half was intriguing because I went into this without even reading that sort of capsule description of the film.
Yeah.
So I had no idea that they were going to be playing with themes of doppelgangers. I had no idea that they were going to be playing with themes of identity. And that's why the misdirect in the beginning was so effective to me, because I thought that they were going to be taking this in a particular way,
Yep.
the idea of the mundane stalker. And it would have been perfectly fine if they had gone that direction. But the film it knocks you off your toes, or puts you on your toes, I should say, right from the jump. And you almost feel like the film a description of the film is almost doing the disservice, because the way it unfolds as a true mystery, and one doesn't truly get a sense of what's going on. And then when things are revealed, that, to the credit of the film, the reveal of the film is not really what the film is about. That it is playing into some very heavy metaphor territory, and that's where I feel that horror is sometimes at its most effective.
Yeah, and I will say that I didn't love the resolution. I'll say that up front here, but I liked where it went, and I liked sort of what it had to say about sort of what Alice Lola became. And sort of how that can really affect you. So I liked a lot of what it was saying, but I don't know. There's something I wish it had ended slightly different. I think it would have had a bigger impact, but I also understand why they ended it the way they did, and I think that there's a lot of, sort of reconciliation that happens with that.
I liked the resolution because I was afraid that it was going to end in a way that was almost
painted it in a negative way.
That was almost judgmental of her lifestyle.
Well, and that's sort of I think that's where I was going.
Yeah.
And maybe that's not right of me to think that, but when you look at it, there's nothing wrong with this. If women want to do that, there is an outlet for it, and there's people who will pay for it clearly, like MZ. Or not pay for it actually, but but it is there's nothing wrong with this as an occupation.
Not at all.
No, of course not.
And so it shouldn't be viewed in a negative light.
I mean,
to the credit of the film, and this was something that Goldharber and Mazzei were setting out to do. They didn't want to stigmatize this kind of work, because there's plenty of stigma to be found against the sex industry within our culture.
Right.
But at the same time, it doesn't present an idealized view of the work. And the ending can be viewed with that sort of overlaying ambiguity applied to it, that the decisions that are made, there is no happy resolution in this movie. It's the idea that nothing is truly overcome. Things are simply suppressed for a little bit, but the very nature of this kind of work suggests that it is going to be a cyclical struggle.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it did.
It's just a matter of just life goes on.
Yeah, I mean, and also,
very simple.
Raven Shadow wanted to get something in. So.
I mean, the things that I found more interesting. I mean, it definitely, in terms of certain industry and how you could take an industry and see something deeper in it. I mean, I think The Wrestler is a great example of that.
Sure.
The juxtaposition of Mickey Rourke's aging wrestler to Marissa Tomei's character. But with this, I found some of the more human elements more interesting with this film. Like, I like the idea of the work in the beginning. That was kind of outrageous with the violence, the guy in the back wanting something more and pushing her to do it.
Oh, the work as in
the work.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
But also too, I thought the stuff with her brother was really, kind of, I don't know if touching's the right word, but the fact when news gets out.
Yeah, and how it affects other people.
Yeah, what it does is that it humanizes, in our eyes. Well, maybe not in our eyes, but her as a character, it humanizes her, that we don't, that we're watching this movie and we're not seeing her as just this sexual object.
Well, and it also shows the negative effects of that. Have, like with her brother and stuff.
Sure.
Well, right, wrong, or indifferent, it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a stigma attached.
It was
to
the stigma attached that is, like sort of unnecessary.
But that can still happen. I mean, it's not the same. I mean, the sex industry definitely is going to have more of a stigma. But if you're crazy Marilyn Manson on stage,
For sure.
I mean, I can
have to go home
Or G.G. Allen.
Well, he's
I mean,
I mean, I can
it gives you
understand
a
why they put that in there. I can understand why they put it in there, but to be perfectly honest, to me, I don't think it really needed to be in the movie at all.
What?
Well, you see, I thought it was incredibly important to have that sort of thing.
I agree.
Because essentially we're getting a sense of her that her audience will never get. And we needed to see that sort of thing. We needed to see the impact that it would have, especially where the movie goes, because what we have is essentially somebody becoming overwhelmed by their identities and trying to find a way to reconcile them.
Right.
But isn't that
it's not a neat reconciliation.
But isn't that a bit of holding hands and trying to lead you on to believe that, and making you realize that this is like an actual person with actual feelings and an actual life? I mean, I've seen enough of this stuff to know that these are people.
Sure,
first and foremost, these are people. And when I mean, if you want to pat out the running time,
world, man.
Right.
Here's my problem with that scene is that when someone is confronted with something horrible that they're doing in their life, they normally try to backpedal and find an easy way out of it. Granted, normally it's a lie. Probably 100%
and she
of
owned
the time
up
it's
to
a
it right
lie.
away.
The simple fact that she had an easy out, that this is going out as a live feed, and she is in the room. She could have easily have said, "That is not me. That only is someone that looks like me," and this whole thing could have gone away.
The thing is that while she had elements of shame of what this doppelganger was doing, the context of what it was doing in, she had no real shame about. There was the awkwardness of trying to, for lack of a better expression, come out to her family. But this is still something that she's inherently proud of. She wants to devote her life towards climbing these ranks. So she didn't like the way it was revealed, but one does get the sense that this is something that she would have eventually revealed anyway. And it wasn't something that she was terribly ashamed about.
Yeah.
No, she definitely was. I mean, she said it multiple times in the movie. She was waiting for the opportunity
to be the best,
to reveal herself to her mother, to
when
show
she got top 10.
When she was
she
top
wanted
10.
to be the best when she revealed it.
Yeah, she wanted to prove to her mom that she was good at doing this.
Yes, that they could have had her do the, talk about this isn't me, but to do that, this film doesn't necessarily exist on a true logic-based situation. It is very much a metaphor-based one.
Right.
So I could understand why they decided to go the direction they did with it.
I mean, but not for nothing. Like, it doesn't have to be the sex industry.
Yeah, this would apply to a lot of different.
I mean, people.
Sure.
I mean, no offense, I guess, but Monster Zero does it sometimes. Like when somebody has a job that's outside of, like, fucking normal. Like Wolfie's not working. You know what I mean? When I was doing ads for a major company, like, oh, why don't you go put the rat suit on? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be like just, like anybody who's not lifting boxes or a plumber or anyone else. There's like this misinterpretation of what
having a real job.
Yeah, of not having a real job, like what their thing is, like, so, compact that with another taboo, like. Yeah.
I mean, and even in more mundane jobs, I mean, I worked at a warehouse, and even in there, you'd find quote unquote morally questionable ways of working that people don't necessarily want to say. The time that you hid in the stacks for a little while just because you needed a break from the job and anything like that. And it fits into a quote that Mazet did in the Playboy article that I found, that it says, quote, "I think we always demand of sex workers that they be completely empowered by their work, or otherwise they're being exploited, and we don't do that for anyone else. We don't go up to a waiter and say, is this job empowering to you? Does this job make you feel okay? At the end of the day, sex work is work, and we wanted to show it that way."
Right. I enjoyed that. I only had 2 complaints about the movie, and I'll lay it out there. I did really, really like this. And it's funny, like Wolfie was talking about before we started rolling, he was kind of catching the end and saying this was the weirdest showdown he had seen.
The weirdest like final showdown.
I'll take this over the fucking kind of flaccid showdown at the end of the last movie we watched kind of any day. Like I felt like, because I didn't, like as this happened, you know, I was like, what's fucking transpiring right now? You know what I mean? And it was definitely, like the way it looked, it was definitely like a lock of wills and wits, and it was just something that you usually wouldn't see in it was almost a very literary ending in a way, despite how visual it was. It wasn't the type of thing that you would generally see in a film. You know, like if this was the 90s, you'd get brought into like some crazy virtual reality world and like show all the, like, it was very subdued and it was very cool. There were two things I didn't like. I thought her name was a little on the nose.
Alice?
Yeah.
Alice,
You
Well,
know?
through the looking glass.
Yeah, you know, because she came.
You
calm down.
There you were like pissed because
Jesus.
Oh!
No, I got it now. No.
Yeah.
All good.
I thought he
wasn't-
came
wasn't
because he
you
finally
on the nose.
understood it.
I can wear that anywhere. And I you know, I thought that, you know, so that made the element of the end a little on the nose, right? Because it was definitely, you know, very, not just like a mirror image. They definitely used mirrors at the end to get things done. So the through the looking glass thing and how she came out, you know, Alice went through the looking glass and it was obviously very changed. It was a little on the nose. I was confused about one thing where I feel like when they gave as much, and I like the vague, almost it follows grasp on mythology explanation in this. Like I'm glad there wasn't like a lot, and I liked the weird subculture of somebody who, you know, is Monster Zero times 10. They watched this so much they were able to see an anomaly. But what are you gasping at?
I'm sorry. You like the Red Riding Hood, but you don't like Alice in Wonderland.
No, I like it. I just thought it was a little on the nose.
But the red jacket, like...
I thought that was a little on the nose, too.
Okay, you just... Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm never positive what he's mad at for me, ever.
I don't think he's mad at you. He's just questioning.
I don't understand. You're pissed at one movie.
I wasn't pissed. I thought it was a little on the nose, and I did think the Red Riding Hood stuff, like I enjoy that mythology. I agree with Raven Shadow, but I do think that if you have the Wolf Brigade and then you have Little Red Riding Hood mythology, it is a little heavy-handed.
I thought that was more on the nose than Alice.
Really? Because she was staring at a mirror.
In a mirror at the end.
Well, it may not.
No, because the whole thing, it was a mirror image of her, too.
I actually never put two and two together and thought of the Alice, because I just thought of her as Lola.
Right.
So I just didn't make the connection. But
Which
now that you say it, yeah, absolutely.
But I think that, and the other thing that bothered me, if I may, is...
Oh, yeah, God forbid if someone interrupts you.
Yeah, like we're going to stop him now.
Yeah. Shut up, Lumpy.
Yeah. He's Chewbacca's kid?
Yeah, he wishes. Is that I was worried, and I'm still not 100% positive that there wasn't something here. Did anybody else, like... I was afraid, and I talked to this with former Elm Street Kid host Wiley a little bit earlier in the day. I was sort of afraid, I'll put it bluntly, that she had like vibrated herself into like this situation, and I was afraid that they were making. Even though that wasn't the case, I was still afraid until they had that mythology thing, and I'm still kind of like. It seemed so where they were going that even after they explained it, I couldn't shake it, that they were kind of making not exploration, but her doggedness, her determination, and what she was willing to do to get over, like almost like she had made a deal with the devil, right?
Yeah.
Like
Well, I mean, you can kind of view it as that as well, but I think it's more along the lines of this is the cost of ambition.
Yeah.
And to quote onto the vibrating scene, I do enjoy that scene, particularly how the end of it goes. That you actually see her climax, but that's only because she was able to raise the ranks. When
Right.
she hit number 47, that's when she actually had the orgasm. Because that is ultimately what she is actively
Yeah,
pursuing.
that's what gets her off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's telling that Harbor, again, in that Playboy interview, he states that the films that they were looking at in the development of this movie were movies like Black Swan and Whiplash.
Yeah, Black
which are
Swan
all
came
about,
to my mind too.
Which are all about the pursuit of perfection, or at least excellence, and the impact that can have on a person. Which is why the film will end up with an ambiguous, or at least a somewhat dark ending or interpretation of that ending, because you get the sense that, yes, she can conquer this demon now, but it is always going to be lurking there as long as you are pursuing this kind of excellence.
Right. You're this was a broader thing, and I'm not sure why this came to mind, but I was thinking exactly what you were thinking. It'd be like, like if it was more of even an overt, like Jack the Ripper type scenario versus like a sex worker. You know what I mean? Like for her, if they overcame that, and for her to go back to her life, she was still putting herself, like any sex worker is in this society, is putting herself into a position to be besieged by predatory means.
Yeah, well, and it's just the idea that when one's validation comes from the adulation of others,
right.
I mean, you could translate this to almost any field that has that kind of bend to it.
Right.
I mean, you could remake this with a musician. You can remake this again. So you could easily remake this with a wrestler.
Sure.
In fact, the climax would be somewhat different, but you can almost imagine it played out in that context.
Sure.
That these sorts of things exist. They're not exclusive to this industry, but that's why I think that this film has a hell of a lot to say to a hell of a lot of people, especially as we do exist in a society that puts so much emphasis upon the sort of social currency. That how much of our validation, how much of our standing these days is informed by our digital identities.
Right.
Yeah, and one of the things I appreciated about this, and you're right, Goral, you could absolutely transfer this story to other avenues, whether wrestling, music, podcasting, whatever. Like, you take your pick, you could apply this same story. But the thing I liked about it is that it presented sex work in a way that wasn't like over the top or even gratuitous. Like, this is and they could have gone like X rating on this. And that would have been fine, and it would have had its audience. But I think showing restraint in that sense, I think, was a good idea, because it's about the story and it's not about the work, and it's not exploiting what they do for work. So I think it was this really delicate balance that I think really played out well.
Yeah, this was very meticulously directed.
Well, and it's go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, the director took great care in making sure that the idea of sex work, cam girls, is handled very delicately. I mean, because this, like Wolfie said, this could have very easily gone into
exploitation or
X-rated mode, or
gratuitous,
exploitation, sexploitation, and it doesn't do any of that. The way this director handled the material of this movie is done very, very well,
and it lets the story
well.
breathe more than focusing on the gratuity.
Right.
Yeah.
I also feel it also could have been oppressively prude too, which I feel like would have been equally distracting.
Yeah,
And
I mean it is sex work. I mean, you have to. Yeah, I mean, there's a good enough, like, there's I guess like off-screen orgasms. And, like off camera, I should say.
If you, I mean, I'm sure this will get twisted and corrupted, what I'm trying to say. And I wasn't disappointed that I saw this beautiful woman naked, but I feel like if you went this whole type of story without seeing this woman naked, like, I felt like you would have, like, it just would have been distracting. Like, it would have been fucking
Call
impossible.
bullshit on that.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't be.
Yeah,
know
and
what I
that's
mean?
why I
Like-
said it had that delicate balance.
It was great.
Yeah.
I thought
Well,
they set the tone perfectly in the opening shots with her in the jacket open up, where it was at any point you could see nudity.
Yeah.
So it was, it was you didn't see it in that
And you
shot,
don't.
but it was just at any point in this movie you were going to see nudity. You just didn't know when, and it was definitely going to be subtle.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Gordon.
Yeah, I mean, it comes off as very matter of fact, and it's one of the things that it's remarkable for a movie that deals so heavily with sex that there is very little eroticism.
Right.
That
yeah.
If not,
at least, I mean, I can't speak for every viewer of this movie, and people get turned on by any number of things. But there was nothing to me that was terribly arousing about this movie.
No.
That this was presented so matter of fact that it just any nudity that arose, any sort of suggestion of the sexual act, it just felt to the service of the world that they were creating.
I mean, the vibrator scene was actually awkward, I thought.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
Actually,
the vibrator scene was almost horrific in his presentation.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
you
agree.
were getting into territory that was almost like Requiem for a Dream territory in the way that it was shot, the way it was presented.
Right. Yeah.
Well, no, I don't think so. I thought it was done quite erotically.
Well, let's
I mean, like I said, everybody is different.
Continue right to the source here, MZ. Yeah. Did you keep it in your pants the entire movie?
What pants?
Your pants.
I left.
He didn't wear any.
In order for me to keep it in my pants, I have to have pants on.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Was the robe open or closed?
What robe?
All right, Buffalo Bill.
Just
By the
lay
way,
on
I need.
tops.
By the way, I
Did
need
you
a
put the
new
lotion.
chair.
Yeah, you put the lotion on the biscuit.
He put the lotion all over the room.
No, I mean just because the way the film that particular scene was lit and edited, I think using the Requiem for a Dream reference is a little bit strong. I mean, because
with
drugs,
the darkness and the editing.
Well, because I mean, drugs. The drugs were never meant to. I mean, they were meant to look fantastic, but they were never meant to look good.
I wasn't speaking of the drug sequence. I was speaking of I was speaking of the ass-to-ass sequence.
Oh, geez, shit! How could I have forgotten?
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Where the sexual act is clearly titillating some people, but for the context of the audience, it seems to be much more of an emotional and painful thing for our character to overcome.
And it was very obvious, Goro, when you said that, by the way, to all of us.
Okay.
Not all of us.
all
but one.
I
Sometimes
completely
you gotta
forgot.
explain the reference.
I completely forgot about the ass-to-ass sequence.
I mean,
but also in that, but that's still kind of unfair considering that these are two girls using a double-ended dildo, surrounded by a bunch of middle-aged old men. Throwing money at them, and because they need to do this, because they need to do it in order to survive. What Lola is doing is it's generally the same thing, but the results are somewhat different in the fact that she's doing this for herself, and she's
still doing it. She's still doing it to feed inherently an addiction.
Right.
The addiction to that adulation, the high that she's getting is not coming from a needle, it's coming from the ranking.
Yeah.
And so she's willing to undergo these things
100%.
that she wouldn't normally do because she's chasing that high, the high that she eventually got. It's telling that she did not climax due to clitoral stimulation from this device she was on. She climaxed because she got the hit of adulation. She got the ranking.
Yeah,
she
got the
hit
top
like
50.
47 or something.
I mean,
like that at that
that's
point.
what got her off.
Yeah.
I mean, we
I get
see her further down the line in her trying to get to where she wanted to be, to the point where we're kind of overlooking, and they don't gloss over it, but it's just so a matter of fact, because by the time we get her, she's slitting her throat, right? We're not even thinking about the fact that she shows up and her name is Lola, right? And she showed up in a very underageous looking like attire. You know what I mean? Like that she was like definitely like, kind of dressed like a cheerleader in her little varsity jacket and her sports thing, her sports socks and stuff like that. And her name is, Lolita, so like, she's already marketing at a start at this low. She realizes that the people who are going to fund her aren't people who are just looking for titties, because you can get that anywhere.
Well, number one,
Sure.
she went by Baby, right?
Right.
So it's I think there's sort of maybe there's more to it than that, but
so it's just a matter of like, she already knew. So by the time we get her, when she's at like 25 or something like that, like
probably
like not 25 years old, 25
in the rankings.
Oh, the ranking?
Yeah, like she's again simulating suicide to get to where she wants to be. You know what I mean? So like, like there's while it's not judgmental, it definitely tackles the dark underbelly of what you'll do to get over. You know what I mean? But I'm glad that they did it this way, almost in a very non-judgmental way, in a non-sentimental way, like, say, The Wrestler. And definitely not a judgmental way of making her seem evil, like in Black Swan and those two Aronofsky films. And they didn't go too Faustian. They just kind of made it be, like almost that's part of the job. You know what I mean? Like,
this is what it is.
Right.
There was, and I do want to wrap this up in just a few moments, but there was some oddness. Like when she met, I can't remember the guy's name, but the one who was like the big tipper.
Tinker?
The older guy.
Tinker.
Not Tinker. The older guy.
Barney.
Barney.
Barney. Guy.
Who was familiar with all the other cam girls.
Yeah.
And was like, they don't forget that I put them there or something
So
like that.
I almost would have preferred if this sort of the doppelganger didn't sort of bleed into real world, so to speak, if you guys get what I'm saying. Like there's that scene when she's out with him and then he comes in to find her because of what he saw on. That sort of blurred the lines a little bit to me. And I understand, like, this isn't all in her head, there's more to it than that. But I think that I just feel like it maybe didn't need that aspect of it.
Well, see, that I particularly enjoyed just for his response.
Yeah.
That even though he's in front of the flesh and blood Lola, or who he believes to be Lola.
Yeah.
That instantly when he sees the cam, that he finds himself distrusting the human. To this man, the image behind the screen is more real.
Yeah.
So even though there's a real human being there, he immediately assumes that it's part of some sort of scam that's being done. That what he wanted was the fantasy, and that is the true reality behind it.
And you're right. And when you say it like that, you're right. It is a very powerful sort of thing. But I guess in terms of, as you mentioned, verisimilitude, it sort of starts to blur the lines a little bit more as to like, oh, well, what's going on? Like,
oh yeah, a normal human being would just be like, hey, what the fuck?
Yeah, yeah. So
or assume twins or something.
Yeah, and that's just a nitpick. It just was one of those things that sort of it pulled me out a little bit. But I mean, other than that, I was pretty bought in the second half of this. You know?
Something that Aries, touching upon something Aries said in a different place that actually did.
Ooh, you're touching upon
pull
Aries?
me out a little bit. Yeah, I'm all dusty now. I didn't like the police scene because again,
oh, see, I did. I really did.
That disturbed me.
Again, it's like I don't know. She's right there. You
But
know,
the-
so
but
they didn't even
but
play it off as like thinking she was trying to pull a prank.
But
well, you see, that's what I love. It's the societal stigmatization of sex workers. The fact that the people in authority will never treat them seriously, will never take their complaints seriously, because to them they're lesser. They're just subhuman, or they're things to be exploited. That's why you had the two cops. The one that was trying to finagle himself into having sex with her, and the other one that's just like, just stay off the fucking internet. Well, we don't have time for you. Because you're a sex worker, you're not worthy of our time.
But it wasn't even that they thought that she was a sex worker. Is that they only thought that she thought she was a sex worker. Like, they didn't look at the screen very closely. To them, it was only someone that looked like her.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
It was a crazy person making this call that I'm on the computer. Someone's pretending to be me. I'm on the computer. It was just
Yeah,
a
yeah,
crazy
yeah.
person making this
No,
call.
that scene
I mean-
totally disturbed me.
Well, and it's so true to life because if a prostitute gets raped, she can't go to the cops.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know.
Well,
That was probably an important part in the grand scheme of things because of that. Because it definitely sort of is a commentary on sex work and how it's perceived by the authority figures.
I
and other
understood
people.
that part, but I am a little more, but still didn't like it. But I am a little more seeing it kind of with what you guys are saying now about them not really looking at it. Like, it worked. It plays a little better for me now.
Yeah, that
Well,
was
and also
a
from a-
nuisance call to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also
100%
from
nuisance.
a pure storytelling standpoint, if you want somebody to feel afraid, you have to remove this. You have to remove
You have
the
to
elements of
isolate
safety.
them. Yeah.
So removing the obvious authority figure that serves utility in a horror story.
Yeah. No, you're right. I'm down. I dig it. I get you.
All right. Is there anything else you guys want to bring up before we head to the verdict on this one? Was there?
I wasn't expecting Blumhouse to make such a poignant film.
Yeah, right.
Well,
I mean, I enjoy the shit out of Blumhouse. I think they do great stuff, but this was definitely them not quite punching above their weight class. But I'm glad that they're diversifying into these kind of stories as well.
And I wonder if they weren't sure how this would be received in for a theatrical release, and I wonder if they just decided to go the Netflix route or if they had always sort of thought of it in that way. Because it is interesting because I could see it going either way. I could see this movie doing really well in theaters because of the subject matter, and I could see it doing really poorly.
Well, not for nothing. How much did it cost? Like, what's the
Couldn't have cost that much.
Yeah. So what's the
$1 million?
buy-in? So
$1 million.
That's it's crazy.
What's
This movie would have made that. This movie would have made that money
definitely
back
would,
on
yeah.
midnight screenings alone.
I don't think this would have played at all in theaters, man.
You don't think?
It's hard to say.
I think it would have. In midnight screenings.
I mean, if you
but midnight screenings aren't going to fund it.
I mean, also that
No.
but if you would put, here's the problem with Blumhouse, or the good thing, which would have been for Blumhouse, if you put from the people who brought you any one of those dozen films that Blumhouse put out, like you would have got, even if how little it costs versus how little they normally spend getting hit by the R rating, and how many people could not go see that because of that. So you don't put from the people who bought you Ouija, but you maybe.
No, you know what? Thinking about it, I'm not giving Blumhouse enough credit because they did put out stuff like Get Out. They did put out stuff like Whiplash. And again, Whiplash, you could do a very interesting double feature between this and Whiplash.
Yeah, and if you put just by putting from the people who brought you Get Out, you're getting your audience. Like I think that this would make its money, but I also think that they got more shit than they know what to do with. Like
I just think it's a tough sell in terms of like getting advertising like on television and stuff for
That's
something
kind of
like
what I'm
this.
thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, and not even like if you had like striptease with Demi Moore. All right, well, you're gonna see her breast maybe, or the striptease. What the one with Saved by the Bell was in Showgirls.
Yeah.
You're gonna have that.
That was a flop though initially.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
could you also imagine what the MPAA would have done with this movie?
Right.
Yeah.
NC-17 all the way, man.
And
easily.
And it wouldn't be for content. I mean, how long was
And just-
Suspiria in theaters? 2 weeks. Is this going to be in the same screening?
For as long as you fell asleep.
Well, I mean, what the fuck? I watched Cam during the daytime.
I think they jumped on the opportunity to get in bed with Netflix.
That's fair.
Well, and Blumhouse does have a deal. Was it with? I can't remember if it was with Amazon or Hulu. Do you remember?
Hulu, they're putting out like almost like a television show, like almost like
several
an
of them.
anthology movie show.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, like so. It like I think right now
because they see
they
there's
have
a lot
more
of money
shit
to be
than
made
they know
there.
what to do with, and they're trying to figure out what the next.
And they have pull now. I mean, they're a known commodity where people will say, "Oh my God, it's a Blumhouse movie. I'm going to go see it."
And let's be fucking honest. At some point, the fucking Death Stars and Quinjets are all going to fucking crash, and unless the next things come, cinemas are going to go with them. So, or at least multiplexes. Are gonna
Not
go
with the
them.
AMC A-list. I'm all in on that.
So
No, you see, I disagree on that, man. The flavor of the spectacle may change, but the audience's desire for spectacle never will.
We'll
Theaters
see.
will remain. The digital aspect of this is going to crumble, and only a few will remain. There's too many out there.
Think so?
Yes.
No, it's not going to crumble.
Only a few will remain.
There was just a few giants out there. There was Netflix, there was Hulu, there's
Prime.
Amazon, and now it's like being so fragmented that it's going to turn back into cable. Where someone's going to have to unify all these different networks into a package or something like that.
Oh, that's exactly what I'm saying. It's going to
heading
crumble
back in that direction. But films are always going to be there, I feel, and I hope they are, because I love going to the theater. So
I mean, they will, but I mean, then again, there's a time when fucking drive-ins were very prolific.
Right.
Yeah, it hasn't been for like 20 years though.
Yeah, but I mean that was a time.
You know, I mean that's what I'm
Sure,
saying.
yeah. Sure.
Is that
And,
there's
and look, I mean, we're forgetting
and maybe they will again.
what the theater industry looked like before this boom. Like they were showing
sure.
all these phantom events instead of fucking movies because
no one wanted to go
to the movies,
But
right?
the big thing is, and I have a love-hate relationship with them, but I do think that for better or worse, I think MoviePass changed how people think about going to the movies.
Sure.
And they sort of set in motion all these other companies having to create their own subscription services to deal with it. So, but I think it works, and people now understand, I pay $10 a month for Netflix. Oh, okay, I pay $20 a month for AMC A-List or these other ones. And now you get all these other amenities. I can, Raven Shadow went to the theater, even though he slept through it.
Well,
but you
nice.
got the nice seats.
It's the fucking best.
You can order food right from your chair if you want to. You just fucking ring the buzzer. Someone comes to you and you tell them what you want.
See, it's still hard, man. Like that does not a draw for me.
Well, for some people it is though.
Well,
That's
true,
what I'm
but,
saying.
I mean, I used to love going to the movies. I mean, all you guys. I mean, hell, how many movies did we see?
We used to
fucking
go all
back
the
in
time.
day?
Yeah.
But I can call pizza to come to my house, sit in my comfy couch, pause it, hit the restroom. Say smoke a butt. Like, why don't? Yes, a big spectacle is great on screen. For my 3 a year, but like, if I could watch this at home and not have to leave when it's cold out.
You were only in the
okay.
Suspiria theater though. If you went and saw that in the same with a similar amenities that I saw back that say like a Friday and Sunday, I went and saw The Girl in the Spider's Web in Overlord in a big screen with big surround sound in a good chair.
Yeah, but it was the same. It was the same.
But it was a smaller theater.
In a small theater.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was the
You
same
know what?
thing.
I mean, but I didn't appreciate Suspiria because I felt like I was watching it in a big living room.
You know, I don't want to burst your bubble, Raven Shadow, but you're not the demographic anymore.
And you're also probably the exception because I
Right.
think most people do
Well, that's-
like
I mean,
that night out.
No,
I
well,
mean,
that's the
that's
thing.
great.
He's not the demographic anymore. Most people his age would rather stay home. So all this is being marketed to the
His
younger
age.
audience.
Did you count your candles on your last birthday cake, Junior? I'm the youngest one in the fucking room.
When was the last time I went to the theater?
With me.
Yeah, but I
See
think
Star Wars.
Yeah, but I think that most people listening to this show
No, Aries wants to see Suspiria by himself.
would, a big chunk of that demographic loves the movies, and they're not all. I mean, look at like me and Ghetto Tim. They're not all like 21, 31-year-olds. Like there is,
But I would rather have a regular seat and not pay an extra $10 for something that you know what I mean. Don't give me sell me luxury to get more out of my wallet. Like I just want to go see a fucking movie.
Sure.
It's just not a draw for me. You know what I mean? Another demographic. Yeah, I know I'm not the 18 to 35-year-old, but I'm pretty sure I got fucking more money than most fucking 20-year-olds too. But I'm not. I'm choosing.
Actually,
not
probably
to.
not. I think most 20-year-olds probably have more money than us.
What are they doing?
I definitely like. I don't know.
They're influencers. They're social media
I mean,
influencers.
I love going to the
Give me
movies.
your tokens.
I love sitting in a theater watching a movie, eating popcorn. That shit's expensive, so I
It
don't
is.
do it very often.
Yeah, right.
But someone that's 20, they don't care about their money. They're willing to spend, $15 to see a movie and $10 for popcorn because that's all the expense they have.
Right.
Yeah, which I mean is great, but once again, I'm not going.
You're also, and this isn't a slight, but you're also not like I don't know if there's a correct non-pretentious terminology, but you're also not like like a huge movie fan. For some people,
I am.
Yeah, but for some people, that's their
used to
life.
be.
Yeah.
Well, and
You know, shit to fucking do.
I mean, yeah, but I
Goro-
have shit to do. but
Goro
I go
is a
to
movie fan.
I go to the theater once a month almost.
Goro's
and
watched like
I still don't go to the movies as much as some.
Yeah.
But to put it one way, Raven Shadow, as far as you may not be as big of a movie fan as others, and that's not a slight against you, man.
No, exactly.
But there are some people that want to see a movie as soon as it's available, and for them, the movie theater is always going to have that allure. Now, that's why there's been so much pushback about doing simultaneous releases in theaters and at home, because people readily recognize that a lot of people, if they had the option, they would just stay home.
Right.
But I still think there's still going to be an environment for the theater. There's still going to be that sort of entertainment venue option available to people. Just as people were saying that when they started broadcasting sports back in the day, well, what's the point of going to the ball game if I can, stay at home and watch it?
Right.
I mean, Wolfie can attest. People still like going to ball games.
Right.
Yeah.
So
for sure, yeah.
it's not so much even just seeing the movie; it's experiencing it, and it's not going to be the experience for everybody, and that's fine. But as long as there's still going to be people that want that experience, they're going to survive. Now, I don't think Cam is going to be the best example as far as the birth or the death of cinema one way or the other, because even during the golden age of cinema, Cam wouldn't be a movie that would play.
No, for sure.
Outside of 42nd Street.
Yeah, exactly.
And that shit was not. It shouldn't be used as any sort of example. They showed everything on 42nd Street. If it came in a reel, they'd play that fucker.
Yeah. And I mean, I hope you guys are right, but I remember thinking before, say, Iron Man, I guess, that I might not, like now, if I could have looked ahead now, if you asked me, I wouldn't have certainly as many theaters, or, it would be a very niche thing. Like I didn't think that there would be, I thought I might have seen my last Lord of the Rings,
Okay.
But, and I'm glad. I am sick. I never thought I would say this, but I am fucking very sick of Jedis and Captain Americas. But
We've only seen Jedis like twice in the last 3 years.
I don't need to see any of that anymore. But show me more Shawns of the Dead. But
there isn't.
Even that one didn't get a huge release stateside.
No.
True. Yeah. There is a. Let me find the name of it. There's a new movie that's being compared to Shaun of the Dead, Anna. And
they made it.
Anna,
right?
Anna and the Apocalypse.
Oh yeah. But they made a new movie that I don't know if it came out. It was Frost and
It hasn't
Wright
been
made it.
released yet.
No, Frost and Peg.
This one.
They made another one?
Yeah, just them.
Okay.
And this one here, Anna and the Apocalypse, is being, the tagline is basically like Shaun of the Dead meets La La Land. So that's right down your alley, Mars.
Yeah, I haven't watched La La Land yet. But yeah, I do agree with Raven Shadow in the sense where I do feel that I do feel a strange. I feel maybe an irrational fear of what's going to happen to theaters at the other end of this bubble.
But I mean, you also got to realize that 20 years ago we had 4 theaters in the city we had to choose from. Today, one theater houses as many more screens than those 4 theaters we had.
Right.
So the movie industry is thriving.
I don't know if it's thriving though.
It's doing well.
The theater industry or the movie studios.
Well, they're two different things.
That's why I asked the question.
But they go hand
That's why
in
I did
hand.
the question.
Yeah.
I said that.
I mean,
or the other one.
there's reasons to be concerned, because a lot more the financial success of the studios is dependent upon a couple big tentpole releases.
Right. Yep.
And one thing that a lot of people were concerned of in the move towards the blockbuster model is that movies like Cam, those little smaller budget things, wouldn't have a platform anymore. And indeed, you don't see a lot of those outside of either niche theaters or like the theater that's near my house, which is so big they can actually accommodate these kind of smaller screen stuff as well. Thankfully, though, we do have a platform then with the streaming, so you could almost see these sort of services existing side by side. Especially as these streaming services start investing within their own projects, they want to invest in lower budget things that'll still draw. So I think that I don't think movie theaters are going anywhere. I think that the streaming industry will see some kind of shakeup somewhere down the line because the increasing fragmentation of it's going to essentially be competing with gradually smaller and smaller slices of the pie. But who can say? I mean,
Yeah.
I swear if you were to look up the death of cinema, you'd find people saying or doing variations of this same conversation
Sure.
going back decades.
Those damn talkies are gonna ruin movies.
Exactly.
Yeah. So even before Lord of the Rings, I'm sure there were people that, decrying the death of the cinema. Then Lord of
Yeah.
the Rings came out, and then when people were saying, "Well, we're never going to get a Lord of the Rings," then the Iron Man came out. There's always going to be a appetite for spectacle.
And and even different trends like 35 millimeter going away and the advent of digital projection and things like that. It's always something, but to this point, I mean the theater industry has been going strong for coming up on 100 years.
Well,
even the fact that they're still re-releasing movies in the theaters that you could, buy at any store
Sure.
for
Yeah, a couple-
cheaper than you could go to the theater to see it, and people are still paying to go to the theater to watch
I paid
them.
$25 to go see 2001: A Space Odyssey in IMAX. I own the movie and I've seen it 15 times or so, but like that to me is this fucking spectacle.
But
I want to
e-
see
exactly,
that on
yes.
an enormous fucking screen.
But here's also the flip side to that. For a bunch of years, every 3 or 4 years at Christmas time, I would go see, and there would usually be a Tarantino movie in the middle of it. And I think that he'll be projecting movies on a sheet somewhere if it comes down to it. But I was able to see a fucking Coen Brothers movie at Christmas time in the fucking theater.
Mm-hmm.
That movie came out on Netflix now.
Yeah, because
so
they decided to pursue that option.
Right, so we're still getting the
and there's a bit of testing the waters for
sure,
filmmakers.
but also there's not a lot of fucking room, right?
Like a lot of the films, like Kim Ji-woon, his we just talked about this, and we didn't know that like you and I, Mars, at least didn't know that
We
he
had
had
no
a new
idea
movie
until we heard El Goro.
Yeah,
talk
until heard El Goro show, and and
You don't pay attention to your own group because I first found out about Illang from a post on Trick or Treat Radio. So
well, there you go.
there it is.
There's no secret.
Though it's a fun fact. My local theater tomorrow they're doing a screening of Schindler's List.
Oh, I love comedies. Christmas is
So
coming.
it's that
25th
speaks to Aries'
anniversary.
point about bringing back movies.
Yeah, no, it's and that's totally true. I'm gonna go see Die Hard. I think in a couple of weeks. But because I love to go to the theater and that's a nice alternative. But I do think that is something to be said for the fact that. And people smarter than me, and I apologize for fucking fighting them like cats and dogs about it, that there's something to be said for the fact that if there's, how many theaters in a fucking multiplex? 13, 14? And 6 of them are showing fucking capes and tights. The rest of them, some more are showing fucking Disney CGI cartoon, and the other ones are showing a Blumhouse movie. There's not a lot of room. If you're the Coen Brothers, there's not a lot of room. If you're any of these, directors, like
and Netflix is also paying pretty good money.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we won't see another Evans movie in the theater.
No, I think we will. Well, we do. This is a super interesting
I mean,
conversation.
I've never seen a Evans movie in the theater.
That's true. I haven't either, actually.
This is the Raid.
I didn't see it.
I saw it. I saw it on DVD.
Yeah, I didn't see it
or
in the theater.
Blu-ray. I bought it.
You didn't see that with us?
No.
There was just the 3 of us.
Oh.
Well, we do. It's a super interesting conversation, but we do have to wrap it up. It's getting late.
I'm getting Lords of Salem and the Raid messed up.
And I just wanted to catch up on some feedback real quick in the chat room because we've had some really good conversations, so I've been kind of haven't been keeping a close eye on it. But our buddy D Rook has been hanging out, and he says, "I'm going to start a cam show.
Man.
I'm going to start a cam show tonight. You guys can all watch me stare at a blank piece of paper due to artist block."
Ooh.
That sounds sexy. I'll throw you 500 tokens.
Yeah, you just gotta relax.
Just do it with your shirt off or a tank top at
yeah.
least.
You're glistening.
And then
Draw in the bathtub.
Glistening. And then Corey from Movie Masker says, "I like the theater. It's easier to immerse myself. Takes me 3 hours to watch a watch a movie. 2-hour film at home sometimes because of the distractions. Also, it's hard to beat that screen and sound." So
I do like that.
I'm on board with you, Corey. I agree. If I have the option, I would much prefer to go to the theater, and especially now with something like AMC A-List, it's a no-brainer. If I have the time and it's playing in the theater, I'm gonna go because I got a reserved seat. I don't have to wait in fucking line. I don't have to sit in the very back row if I don't want to. I get to pick where I sit, and it's a nice experience. So for me, I will sit in the theater all day, every day if something's there that I want to go see,
and
I have the time. So
see that it all depends on the movie for me. There are certain movies where I don't want to go to the theater.
Oh yeah, and same with me. Yeah,
the Quiet Place. I don't think I could have watched that in the theater.
Oh, I love that.
It was 900 times better in the theater.
Every cough or clearing of the throat would have taken me out of that movie. I was so happy being alone in my house watching that movie.
All right, well, we need to head to the verdict because that was like a 90-minute conversation.
Verdict? Oh, yeah, we reviewed a movie.
Yeah, with a 45-minute divergence there. So, but it was super interesting. So I didn't want to stifle it. So let's head to the verdict.
Trick or treat, baby.
I wonder if people would say you're a trick or a treat.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.
All right, verdict time. We were talking about a movie, so let's go ahead and give our verdict for Cam. We'll let you know whether there's a trick or a treat and any final thoughts. Let's go in reverse order. I guess I'll kick it off and say that I did think this was a treat. Halfway through, I wasn't sure, but I did like where it went, and as we said, I think that this is a story that sort of can be juxtaposed on a bunch of different occupations, whether it's, like a musician or a wrestler, podcast, whatever. Like this applies to a lot of different occupations, and I feel is still pertinent, even like despite the fact that you may not be a sex worker or you may not even know much about that world. But I think that it definitely works, and I like the way it was shot. It was tastefully done without being gratuitous or exploitive, and I think that it came out the other end showing that sex work is an occupation for people, and they shouldn't be shamed for doing that. If that's something that you want to do, that you're good at and that you enjoy, and it's and maybe if it pays the bills, by all means, there's nothing wrong with it. And I think that this film really straddles that line and does a very good job, because it could go either way very quickly. And I think that it did a good job, and it managed to be a thrilling film, especially as we got sort of towards the climax, so to speak, right, Raven Shadow? Ooh. And I did think it was a really interesting way to have kind of a final showdown, which these guys had walked in while I was watching it, and I said this might be the most bizarre final showdown I've ever seen in a film, but it was interesting and poignant at times. So yeah, I think this is a treat. So let's kick it over to Goro.
All right, this movie worked on me for multiple reasons. One, a fully realized world that I had absolutely no grounding in, and yet by the end of it was fully invested in. And it managed to do it in a setting that it engaged with the material without either glamorizing or moralizing about it. It simply presented it as it is and presented the pitfalls inherent within it without necessarily condemning those that work within the film. And at the same time, it reaches out to very universal themes: the concept of loss of identity, the concept of what we are willing to do in the pursuit of the things that we want. And it did all of that while still never forgetting that it was to tell a very compelling and a very engaging horror story that has some deep resonance, in my opinion. So yes, absolutely a treat for this, and comes with my absolute highest recommendations. If you are a subscriber to Netflix and you are a fan of horror, you should watch Cam.
All right, Marsman.
I was not. I liked it the whole time, but I did look at the runtime at one point and a little afraid that how the fuck is this gonna end in this amount of time, and they managed to fucking just like slam a door, and I thought that was really great writing, and this was a treat. Again, this is another movie that would have definitely been at least top 13 with a bullet another year. So, what a crazy fucking year.
All right, MZ.
Yeah, this movie works on is operating on two fronts. The world that we live in now on social media, where we care more about strangers liking what we do rather than our family does, and also the stigma of the sex profession. I think the director and the writer handled the material on this very, very well. It was done with much care. The performances in this movie were done very, very well. And what's her name? Madeline, whatever her name is. Madeline Brennan Brewer.
Who played the lead? Yeah,
Madeline Brewer.
Yeah.
She was highly believable and very good at what she did. And I don't mean that with a wink and a nudge. I mean that sincerely. And he's laughing. And I really enjoyed this one, and I liked this more than I liked our first feature. Surprisingly enough, I thought this was going to be really cheap and somewhat crass, and I'm pleased to say that I was very, very wrong. This is a treat, and I highly recommend it. Check it out.
You do like crass, though, to be fair.
I do like crass, yes. But the way the material was handled here was very carefully well done. A lot of care was put into this.
All right, Aries.
This wasn't what I was expecting going into it. I thought this was going to be more of a sex killing, just TNA extravaganza. I guess that's my limited knowledge of the cam girl industry. I didn't realize there was a
doppelganger-filled world.
Well, no, a PG-13 version of this. I thought it was all just XXX, balls to the wall type of aspect of it. But I mean, I enjoyed this movie. I thought at times it was a little slow paced. I thought they built up to things and then kind of let you down a little too much. But all in all, it was a good movie. I did enjoy the digital flaws in the doppelganger, and as the movie progressed, and it became more, and then it became apparent as to why they were happening.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was very well done.
Yeah, it was smart.
Yeah, all in all, it was a decently paced movie, well timed movie, hour and a half. That's right in my wheelhouse. So this is definitely a treat.
1 minute longer would have been out of it.
All right, Raven Shadow.
I agree with a lot of what was discussed. I mean, overall, though, I kind of thought, Ngoro was bringing the smartness, which is nice. But this would have been, a really good Black Mirror episode, maybe, or some kind of in a shorter feature, maybe anthology. I don't know. I would say barely a trick.
It's kind of funny because Madeline Brewer was in an episode of Black Mirror.
Was she really?
Yeah.
That was a good one.
You haven't seen it.
I've seen some Black Mirror.
Well, you apparently didn't see the one she was in.
Yeah, it was. Which one was that?
I forget the name of it. It was the one where they're all soldiers and they're seeing the people they're killing as like these crazy mutants.
Oh no, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
I'll watch that.
I don't want to focus on this for long because we got to wrap this up. But one thing that we didn't talk about, this sort of came to mind as we were doing the verdict, is do you guys think that it portrayed the men who view this in a positive light, a negative light, or should they not be cast in a positive light at all?
No, I think those are two archetypes that probably watch cam girls.
I think the two that they showed were in a negative light.
Yeah, they were negative.
Not like
there was the sniveling sort of stalkery weirdo.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't lump them all into one category.
I'm just lumping the ones that we saw.
Okay.
They also seem to fit into the two broad categories of sex worker customers, the stereotypes of it. There's the one that wants to be the knight to save them from this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then there's the one that's simply there to exploit them. It's to them, it's the transaction, and he derives power from that.
Yep.
So yes, they perhaps could have done a more nuanced view, but that wasn't the point of the film. The point of the film was to focus upon the performer.
Well, see, I'd hazard to say there's two types of these viewers: the ones that actively seek out these girls and the ones that don't. And because we're seeing the ones that actively seek them out, those are the negative ones. So that's what we're seeing.
And then there's the MZs who don't pay anything and watch for two seconds and get off.
Yeah, it would be kind of boring to follow the ones that just show up and don't interact.
2 seconds. You're giving me way too much credit.
All right. I just wanted to have a really quick discussion about that. So, all right. Well, that's it. So next week, as I said, we're going to be joined by Tim from Canada or Canadian Tim from Korea, whatever you want. And we're going to do Upgrade and Mom and Dad. So if you guys want to check those out, I know that Upgrade and Mom and Dad are available to stream on VOD. I don't know if they're on any streaming services. I haven't looked that up yet, but feel free
I think Upgrade is on Shudder, but I could be wrong.
Okay, cool. So you guys can do a search. They are definitely available on VOD, though. So give it a look if you want to play along at home, and feel free to send us voicemail about your thoughts on either or both film or about any other film, maybe the ones we talked about this week or in previous weeks. So we are now going to head to some feedback, but before we do that, we are going to say goodbye to our good friend El Goro.
Bye.
He's been a trooper and has stayed with us for almost 4 hours. So,
oh Jesus!
Yeah,
I didn't even notice.
I'm glad that you were able to go in late tomorrow because you're going to need that extra sleep.
He's a weaker man now that it's over. You've weakened him.
So, Goro, if you would, please let people know where they can find Talk Without Rhythm.
You can find me on twrpodcast.blogspot.com, but honestly, you guys know how to search for things. Just look for Talk Without Rhythm. You will find me.
Yes. The only podcast that will not attract the worm.
It's true.
That's the branding.
Scientifically proven.
Although I tried looking them up and I found myself on a webcam girl site.
It's very weird. It's funny how that happens.
He pulled out his fucking worm.
There was only 2 people there. It was like Monster Zero, 316, and Raven Papa. Oh no, it was Raven Papa looking for Trick or Treat Radio.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So, all right, Goro, thanks so much, man. Yeah, it was a blast as always talking
Thank
with you about.
It's always a great conversation. Love coming on.
Yeah, we had fun, and you definitely added some intelligence to the conversation.
Tons of smarts.
And we appreciate that. So, everyone, go listen to Talk Without Rhythm, and obviously. Mars and I will talk to you tomorrow, but
I'll be talking to you before the night is done.
But I'm sure
we won't.
I'm sure we'll have you on again, in due time. So, thanks again, Goro, and we will talk to you soon, my friend.
All right, adios.
See you,
All right, see you, bud.
Later, man.
Actually, Johnny, I got a bail, buddy.
We'll get 2 voicemails.
I gotta go.
All right.
All right, fuck off.
Yeah.
Better be high and by, and let's get the hell out of here.
Raven Chow's been surly all day.
I'm not surly.
You sad then or something?
I'm not surly.
Something's up.
Stick up your ass all night.
What's that?
Shirley, then.
What?
Shirley.
Shirley?
Yeah.
Surely you can't be serious.
I put something on your wall. I think I either sent it to your wall. Yeah, I think I posted. I sent you something.
I saw that. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
I'm
Okay.
gonna look at that.
Yeah.
All right, Raven Chow, say your fucking thing.
All right. Live fast, love hard, die with your mask on.
All right. All right, so we're going to hear from our buddy Arkham Josh.
Hello, Trick or Treat Radio guys. It's Arkham Josh here, calling in and catching up. One thing is I finally caught the Suspiria remake, and I'll keep my thoughts brief because I know that was a few weeks back. But I thought that there were some interesting concepts, some interesting story ideas, and I appreciated the use to the overall artistic style of the film to be a sharp contrast to that of the original. But overall, I just think it didn't really gel together and work. Like, it was an unsuccessful film to me. I thought some of the set pieces were fantastic, but for a movie that was over an hour longer than the original and seemed to go out of its way to give you as much information as possible, at the end of the film, you really knew pretty much the same amount of information as you knew in the first one. I mean, a little bit more, but not really a lot considering how much extra info was crammed in, in front of us. I thought the ideas of setting it against the political backdrop were interesting. And kind of the general style combined with the political ideals and some of the discussions. Oddly enough, it kind of had a general feel that felt to me more like a Werner Fassbinder film from the 70s rather than emulating an Argento film. So I think that was an interesting idea and a different direction to go in. Well, like I said, overall I thought it just didn't quite work, and part of me thinks I should check it out again, but the runtime is just like, well, I can watch 2 other movies I haven't watched in that time. So I'm going to give this barely a trick and only recommend it to completists that have to see it because of the original. Because, I mean, like I said, it had some great set pieces and some interesting ideas. Just didn't quite work. I did not catch up with Molly, and after listening to last week's discussion, I don't know, I'm not going to make the time right now to cram it in. Maybe down the road I'll watch it. But I did watch both of the films for this week's show. So up first is Illang, The Wolf Brigade. I'm just going to say it. This was a little bit of a disappointment for me. I'm a big fan of the director. Tale of Two Sisters is one of my all-time favorite movies. I even really liked his big Hollywood action film, The Last Stand. Thought that was a ton of fun. But this just didn't really do anything for me. I don't know if it's that I'm completely unfamiliar with the source material, and it felt like they were giving us a lot of information, but at the same time, it just felt like something was missing. And I think that maybe there was some further context or more information that might have been more in-depth in the anime series or anime films that just didn't translate well into the live-action feature. The other thing being is we've been inundated with some amazing action over the last few years. So some of the action scenes in this just kind of didn't do it for me. So unfortunately, I'm going to actually have to say that Illang is a trick and not a recommend. But then this morning I watched Cam, and at first I was kind of a little ho-hum on it. But then once the story starts to develop more, and I don't want to give anything away, but there are certain reveals towards what's going on. I found myself very engrossed in it. I thought it was a very interesting concept, and I thought the actors pulled it off well. I thought the director pulled it off well. I think he's a first-time feature director. Looks like he had made some shorts before. But overall, I really enjoyed Cam, and I would say that is a treat and a recommend. And I'd be interested to see what the filmmaker has coming in the future. Because I thought that, he's working with some interesting concepts. So, yeah, overall we have barely a trick, and a treat. So, I don't know. I hope that's all good. Thanks again for having me on the show a couple of weeks ago. It was a blast. I look forward to getting on, sometime early in the new year. Don't worry, Raven Shadow, I already put the VHS of Dudes aside for you. And overall, hey, I hope everything's going great. I hope you guys are all prepared to have a good holiday season. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. All right, bye.
All right, Josh. Thanks, man. And as always, good to hear from you and get your thoughts on film. And yeah, it was absolutely awesome having you in and seeing you. So looking forward to doing it again. And if Raven Shadow were here, I'm sure he'd be very excited to hear you put his dude's copy aside. Was something off with Raven Shadow tonight? You guys get that vibe?
No.
No? All right. Maybe it's just
we
me.
just went along with it because it was funny.
No, someone's the matter.
Yeah, I think
There's
so.
no doubt in my
I
mind.
don't think so.
Yeah, I can't tell.
Well, you never pay attention anyway, so.
I thought at first I thought he was pissed about the movie, but then he might have been pissed ahead of time. Aries, what do you
Yeah.
think? You think he was pissed about something?
Aries knows him best.
No, he's fine.
He's a big boy. Yeah. All right. One more voicemail. This is from Dynamo's kid.
Which one?
Not his birthday. Pabst.
It's not Alberto's birthday either.
Hey guys, it's Paps just calling in. I'm pretty behind on the movies you guys have been watching lately.
You do have a
but
pretty
two movies that I did watch recently were both from the Indonesian director Timo Tehanto. I'm just gonna butcher his name either way. So
Good
anyway,
luck. Good luck.
so I watched The Night Comes for Us, and Jesus fucking Christ, I cannot remember the last time that I saw a movie that was that violent. I also cannot remember the last time I watched a movie that made me say, "Oh my God," every 2 to 5 minutes. That movie was relentless.
Yep.
That movie had incredible fight choreography and was just super fucking badass. Like, I cannot remember the last time, or I don't think I've ever seen a movie where a character used a kukri as a weapon. And I thought that was
awesome.
that was super fucking cool. Yeah, I loved that movie, and I have been preaching about it to anyone who will listen. It definitely makes me want to go see Headshot, which I have not gotten to yet, but I know that it is on Netflix. After that, I watched May the Devil Take You, and I really, really enjoyed that one. I thought that movie was a ton of fun. I do agree with you guys where it did have a bit of the kind of, I don't want to say it's like an homage to Evil Dead, but there was definitely an influence there. But despite that, I still thought that it was its own movie. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool. I thought a lot of the effects in that movie were really well done. I think there was maybe like only 1 or 2 times where I thought that it didn't look necessarily the best. But at the same time, I was also really into that movie, so I didn't really care all that much. So yeah, both movies, fucking treats. Really, really loved them. Like I said, really want to go see Headshot. I also really want to see the Raid movies. I've been meaning to see them for a while. I mean, I know you guys rave about them. And both the Raid and Headshot are both on Netflix, so I will be checking those out soon. On an unrelated note, for my question this week, so right now I am listening to the Bite episode that you guys did. I think it's like 202 I'm at right now. I've been slowly but surely working my way backwards through your catalog. And I wanted to know from you guys, other than The Void, what is the best movie, or what's the movie you've seen with the best practical effects within the last 10 years? So between 2008 and now, which one do you think has either the best or the coolest practical effects? All right, guys, have a good night, and I look forward to listening, and peace.
That's a good question.
10 years.
For answering it at 106, I don't know if I'm going to give it an adequate answer. It is 1:06 a.m. right now. But the first thing that comes to mind, this may not be the best, but one of the ones that comes to mind, and I believe it was mostly all practical. I had a second thought, but I'll go with the original. I was going to say Baskin. I remember Baskin had some good gore. I don't know if it necessarily had tons of practical effects, so maybe I'd go with something that's more
to find a movie that has nothing but
monster
practical effects in it is pretty difficult in this day and age.
Yeah.
He didn't say nothing but. He just said the best.
I know that.
Night Comes for Us.
I'm trying to think of a
might
movie
be up
in
there.
which it has nothing but practical effects, but I can't think of one off the top of my head immediately. So if I had to think of one right now, well, it's a toss-up between two. Either, and they're both remakes, believe it or not. the Evil Dead remake,
Mm-hmm.
and the Thing remake.
Well, the 2009 thing?
2011, I
or
think it
11.
came out.
Okay, yeah. I still haven't seen that. What's funny is
I have it at my house. Someone just lent it to me.
Well, I was gonna say D-Rook lent it to me, and I've had it for like over a year now, so I feel like a
Hey,
jerk.
dude, I
but-
got a jet.
Well, we're all gonna jet.
No, I mean I got a jet now.
No, we're all gonna jet.
Well, fuck you. I'm gonna jet. Arrivederci, douchebags.
Jesus.
Hey, you're the one who made the show too damn long.
You were the one rambling on.
Yeah.
It's all your fault.
Yeah.
We would have ended a half hour
Yeah,
ago.
Jesus Christ, MZ.
Yeah, I am looking. I'm watching you. You and your boner. Walk out of here.
He's got to go say hi to his cam girls. He's been away for too long.
You go take your heart on and walk on.
All right, MZ's out of here. Raven Shadow's gone. Everyone's fucking gone. We got to end this episode. So thanks, Paps. I'm glad you dug
The Raid.
Well, he hasn't seen it yet.
No. That's what I think has the best. practical effects.
Sorry, I thought you were saying. So I'm glad you got a chance to see The Night Comes for Us, and I can't wait to see where that's going to end up at the end of the year. It's going to be interesting. Now with Headshot, don't go in expecting The Night Comes for Us. You might be disappointed because nothing is that fucking violent. Nothing. So you get a little bit more storyline with some amazing fight sequences.
Yeah, I think the fight choreography is better in Headshot.
Yeah, I remember you did say that. Not as much action, but the action you get maybe is of a higher quality, and not as much violence, despite there being a lot of violence. But yeah, if you watch Headshot or The Raid, definitely let us know what you think. All right, so that is going to do it. It's been a long night, and we're coming up on 4 hours. So we should say arrivederci, douchebags. MZ's already gone. Raven Shadow's already gone. So it's down to 3. Aries.
Goodbye.
Marsman.
Remember, children, wherever you go, there you are.
All right, and next week, as I said, we're going to have Canadian Tim from Korea. He's going to join us to talk about the films Upgrade and Mom and Dad. And you guys can check them out on VOD, maybe streaming services. I haven't checked yet. And give them a look. If you have thoughts on them, feel free to send them our way. Podcast at trickortreatradio.com. Voice message is preferred, but you can also do an email if you'd like. And I want to thank everyone who sent in feedback. Big thanks to El Goro for hanging out with us and giving us his opinion on films. And everyone who's going to listen to this. We appreciate you guys. See you later.